All right, everybody. Welcome to a later in the week, but nevertheless, live edition of The Beard and the Bookie. As always, I am the Bookie Dan. Man on the far right there with the big beard is the Beard Josh. And the voluptuous stash in the middle is Chico. Like I said, we're later in the week. I'm a little tired, but we're here. We're good. Chico, before we start, I'll let you take the podium here after your big call last week.
You're welcome. You know, they say with great power comes great responsibility. So, but yeah, I made a pick that I figured most of you guys listened to, but no one did. Michigan over Ohio State in the just a big rivalry game. But you're welcome. Let's jump into this. Let's get it started.
So you're like, if you're gonna drop the Uncle Ben references, does that mean I get to shoot you repeatedly?
I'm not Uncle Ben. Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. Still in the Marvel Universe.
All right, fair enough. Anyway, let's start off with a few UFC things. Nothing major. So, Josh, we have talked about Chimaev enough that we know he is a legit force moving through the ranks, but I don't know if this is a Khabib idea or if this is just him using social media to his benefit, but there is nobody that is not getting the Chimaev target. Whether it be Brock Lesnar, whether it be GSP, whether it be Daniel Cormier himself from the commentary table, Chimaev is calling out anyone and everyone.
Yeah, it's interesting because if you remember from a while back, we had a conversation about Conor McGregor and his statements of he would fight anyone, anywhere, anytime. And you had brought up like, well, then Conor McGregor should go fight John Jones. And I told you, don't be an idiot. Like, no one's that stupid. Apparently, we found the person that is that stupid. Because this man wants to call out Daniel Cormier and Brock Lesnar. Like, do you have a death wish? It's not going to go well for you. Daniel Cormier even told him, he's like, are you messing with me, dude? Like, in a legit wrestling match, you don't stand a chance.
Cormier's exact response was, you don't want this smoke.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, you don't want this, which makes sense. I mean, the guy's branding, and the guy knows that he's a problem in this division. So he is peacocking a little bit, and he wants to have Dana White let him fly. He's got his fight, though. Brock Lesnar's not going to come back and fight this dude. They're never going to allow that fight to happen. So it's nothing more than smoke and mirrors, but I love the hustle, and I think it's funny. Just the reactions he's getting back from these guys is all worth it to me.
Yeah. Let's call out Brock. He only outweighs you by what, 60 pounds?
More than that. I think Chimaev is does he fight at 170? I think he's a 170 guy. If he's a 170 guy, Brock probably outweighs him now by like 150, maybe. He's back on the juice in the WWE.
They test there, okay? They test.
Plus, right. Brock couldn't even beat Roman Reigns or whatever the hell that dude's name is. So, like, I don't know why we're talking about him. He's not worth a fight these days.
Well, while Chimaev is calling
Roman Reigns, though, he played with Megatron at Georgia Tech.
That's true, he did.
I'll say Chimaev has to call everybody out because Dana apparently was trying to set up a fight for Chimaev with Nate Diaz, who has now responded with he felt disrespected at this, that they are handing him rookies. Okay, let's just call this for what this is. Josh, you and I have talked about Nate Diaz. I have said that Nate Diaz needs to, at this point, kind of go away. Like, he showed me a lot more than I expected in the last fight, but, like, I'm not interested in Nate Diaz at this point anymore. And Nate Diaz, for all his branding and equity and whatever he wants to put in it, didn't want to go in there and get rocked by Chimaev.
No, he absolutely doesn't. But I don't really think that's it. I think that Nate Diaz is looking at it like, okay, you have this hotshot young up and comer who's calling me out, but like, where's the benefit for me? Why should I do this? Like, don't disrespect me by throwing me a guy who hasn't earned his place to fight me yet. I think if Diaz sees him beat somebody like Dariush, who he's going to be fighting, maybe he would probably consider it or see him as like a legit contender. But Diaz doesn't have anything to prove. He doesn't care. He's just about money fights right now. So I can see from his angle why he wouldn't. I don't know that losing to Chimaev would necessarily hurt him. I think it would just push him into retirement a little bit earlier than he maybe wants to, but it doesn't negatively affect him.
I was like, losing to Chimaev just cements what we know.
Yes.
That's what that is, and what he doesn't want to accept.
Right. And I mean, Diaz just wants title shots at this point. Diaz doesn't really care about anything other than that. So,
what title? Who with a title is like, yeah, I'll fight Nate Diaz because
Kamaru Usman. He'd fight him.
I mean, he would, but who cares?
No one wants to really see that fight, so it doesn't really matter. But he could do it.
Yeah. You brought up Dariush, who does have a fight. He will get the other end of this spectrum with Makhachev. That will be on a UFC fight night at the end of February. And Khabib has put a little more interest in this fight because Khabib has said that the UFC has told them that if Makhachev can finish Dariush, he'll get a double bonus.
I mean, what more incentive do you need if you're Islam? Like, Islam's a very good guy. He's like a direct protege of Khabib in a lot of ways. I mean, they've trained together. They both trained with Cormier and everything at AKA. So, I mean, he is the closest thing that we can see to like what would have happened if Khabib would have had a longer run in the UFC, or if he would have started at the bottom and worked his way up. That's kind of what we're looking at. So if Makhachev beats Dariush, finishes him, I should say, that's definitely worth a double bonus because Dana likes his finishers. So if you can promote him as a finisher over a guy with a storied career and a background like Beneil Dariush, it doesn't hurt for sure. It definitely builds him up and makes the fight easier to sell for him getting a title shot.
I would say the incentive is interesting too because Makhachev has just the one UFC fight from a month ago, I guess it is now, where he had a real slow first round, then came out in the second round and ended the fight quickly. And Dariush is a guy who can take a lot of punishment. He does not finish easily at all. So it's really an interesting fight to see if Makhachev had the build up coming in the fight, as the finisher, as a guy that would, get through that fight quickly. The first round was a little surprising, but then he quickly showed why he had all the build up. So it'll be interesting to see if that machine can slice through Dariush in that way.
I think that's really the true test. And I think you're starting to get to see, I mean, after a year that we've had in mixed martial arts where it has been one of the better years for finishes and just overall fights, Dana's kind of getting back to that. I want finishers. You want big title fights. You want the big guys. I want you to show that like you can not only compete, but you can also entertain. I don't want you to just sit there and lay on guys and wear him out for 3 rounds and then get the win. I want to see you go out there and knock that dude out or take him down, submit him, or take him down and ground and pound him until he can't get up. Like that's kind of what they're pushing for. So I don't think this is only just because it's Makhachev. I think it's because we're starting to see more guys like him and getting back to that style of fighting, which Dana has never been a huge fan of. So putting the extra incentive, I think, can set a precedent on a lot of levels for guys at his level and the up-and-comers.
While Khabib's obviously got Chimaev and Makhachev running through the UFC, he also made the announcement that he's bringing his whatever you want to call it, affiliation or stable over to the U.S. as well. They'll be in Miami, I think.
That
All
sounds
these
about
guys
right.
are out of Dagestan.
Dagestan in that area, yeah.
God damn.
Because I think he's taking his father's group and bringing them all to the U.S.
He's basically
He's got
forming a
them.
takeover.
Yeah, hey, if he wants to come take over, he can definitely try. It's not like who's his manager, Ali Abdulaziz. Like that dude manages all these guys anyway, so it just helps to get them all over here. They can make more money if they're all fighting over here, and if they all train together at like an AKA or they open their own stable in Miami. That's just gonna make it better for them overall.
Another fight that has been announced is Jan Blachowicz versus Alexander Rocket in the end of March. Jan obviously coming off the loss. Jan's got to get back on the horse. This is a fight I think that sets him up to do so, but the steam behind Jan is certainly faded.
Yeah, it faded really quickly. I mean, when he beat Israel Adesanya, everybody was like, okay, he's legit. And then he goes out there and gets beat by Glover Teixeira, who's been just kind of always a hang around in the light heavyweight division, but never anything of note. So to kind of get dominated like that, it definitely drops his stock a lot. So this is a great opportunity for Rakic to kind of step in and put himself in that title contention spot against Glover, who, let's be honest, even if Glover wins or stays champion for a little bit, you're looking at like a Michael Bisping type situation. You're looking at a guy who's not going to be around for very long, who won it in the twilight of his career. So really, what are you expecting out of him? It takes the wind out of the light heavyweight division a lot. And we've only seen this once before, and it was right before like when John Jones was there. When you had like Shogun Hua and Lyoto Machida and Rampage Jackson and Forrest Griffin back in the day. Like,
Those are names that I know.
I know those are names that you know.
Those are names that I know.
So you're looking at like kind of a situation pre John Jones. Like, who's going to be the next guy that's going to stick around and hold it for a while is the real question. And you're talking about a guy like Dominic Hayes or like a Thiago Santos, one of those guys potentially getting it. But I don't care. Like the Jan fight got announced, and I was just kind of like, meh. Ever since he lost to Glover, he means nothing to me now.
I don't want the next John Jones. It's bad enough I got to deal with the current one. I don't want the next one.
Next one can be better. Can be
It's like
better.
an improved version, maybe.
A less violent one outside of the cage, maybe.
Yeah, one that doesn't like to fight police and women and hit and runs.
Can't make promises, right?
We can't, but we can try. We can hope.
Hope for a better tomorrow, Chico. Hope for a better tomorrow. Lastly, Israel Adesanya and Robert Whittaker are going to do it again at UFC 271 the beginning of February. And our buddy, Mr. Covington, has decided to weigh in on the champ. He said, and I'll quote him, I mean, style bender, he can't wrestle. He's not a well-rounded fighter. I'd take him down and gas him out. He wouldn't be able to stop me. Colby, you got to get to him for this. Like, you're not even on the path here.
Yeah, he's, two different weight classes. You can't even get past Kamaru Usman, so why does Israel Adesanya care about you at 185? He doesn't. Israel's going to say, get in line at 185, go fight the guys that I fought, you beat all them, then come talk to me. Like, that's what he's going to do. So, and Colby at 185 doesn't beat half the guys in the stable at 185. There are better wrestlers than him.
He's having a problem with his own weight class. I don't want him to move up.
Yeah, I mean, he's a shit talker. He's a Wish.com version of Chael Sonnen, as far as I'm concerned. So, he didn't even come close to winning the title either chance he got it. At least Chael had a title won for 24 and a half minutes. So it just comes down to this guy's going to talk to try and stay relevant, but his only chance at relevancy was gone when he lost to Usman the second time. So I don't care about him talking to Adesanya about moving up to 185. He's got to start at the bottom and work his way up. And good luck to him on that. He wouldn't even get past the Euro and Arrow if he was still on the roster.
Reminds me of Ken Shamrock.
The world's most dangerous man, Ken Shamrock.
I should have beat Tito Ortiz. You got knocked out in 30 seconds, dude.
Josh, am I missing something? Is there a reason why we're doing circling this back with Adesanya and Whitaker?
Well, Whitaker beat Jared Cannonier, so Whitaker kind of worked his way back up.
Okay. I thought I missed something in the first fight. Like there was a clamoring for a rematch. This is just basically working your way back up the ladder. We're recycling. Okay.
Yep. Because Izzy fought Yoel after that, and he fought Marvin Vettori twice, and he fought Jan. So like Whitaker's been beating guys, and Izzy said when Cannonier and Whitaker were fighting, he's like, if Jared Cannonier wins this fight, like he's earned himself a title shot. Well, when Whitaker went out and won it, he was like, well, I guess Robert gets another shot then. So that's how we got back here.
Yeah. Thanks for opening your mouth, Israel. Appreciate it. Quickly before we move off, you brought up Chael. Did you see the back and forth with Chael and Connor?
Oh, yeah, I couldn't care less, but I saw it.
I know you hate Chael, but I love him.
I respect his hustle a lot more than I respect a lot of others, because Chael Sonnen had real talent, and he kind of set the bar when it came to shit talking in MMA. Like, no one really did it all that well before him. So he kind of brought it to that next level, and I respect him for that as like the the godfather of shit talk in mixed martial arts. But I mean, he's got his podcast now where he goes on and he gives his takes, which is his right. He's very successful at it, and I watch most of them. But like when it comes to Chael and Connor, it's like neither one of you are fighting right now, and Connor's not really as relevant as he used to be. So I'm just like, you guys can say all you want, you're not going to fight. This is just a publicity spat, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, yeah, I mean, Connor's the one that went at Chael, and Chael just had to remind him that I've been retired for 5 years, and I still got 3 more wins than you do.
Yeah, but Connor's got 2 more belts than he does, so
it's
all relative.
Connor's like doing all this stuff on, like I'm healed now and I'm on the comeback. Like let me know when you're gonna fight somebody. Like I don't care.
Well, the question is who's he fighting? He does have one person he could fight. There is one name who's also been on kind of a losing streak and hasn't looked the same as of late, just like Connor, and that's Tony Ferguson.
That's a loser leaves the UFC fight.
I'm fine with that.
Contract on a pole kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm in.
Say Tony Ferguson?
Yeah.
Yeah, Chico knows that.
Why don't you just get Diego Sanchez out of retirement then if we're going to do that?
First of all, Diego Sanchez, I think, is fighting in bare knuckle now. So I don't think he's.
I could see that.
I could see Connor going over to bare knuckle and beating up on some dudes. That'd be cool.
I'm pretty sure Connor bare knuckles anyway. He might as well start getting paid for it.
He bare knuckles 80-year-old men in the bar, so yeah, why not?
Yeah, it is what it is. All right,
yep.
Let's transition to football. Let's start with college because it is championship weekend. So, all right, I guess let's talk about how we got here first before I dive into everything else. As we mentioned at the start of the show, and as Chico predicted, Michigan handled Ohio State. The game was never really in question. Ohio State got slightly close, but then Michigan pulled away again. So they've now got Iowa for the Big Ten championship this weekend. Josh warned us last week, and I was in agreement with, especially with how big that line was, that crazy things happen in Bama and Auburn, and by all accounts, if Auburn was even slightly intelligent, Bama doesn't win that game. But a running back runs out of bounds and saves them time. And Bama comes down the field and scores, and we go 4 OTs, and we are exactly where we thought we'd be with Bama and Georgia for this weekend. And then lastly, Oklahoma State finally gets over the hump and beats Oklahoma and kicks Lincoln Riley right out there to USC. And they will have Baylor with assuming that, if everybody holds serve the way they should, a victory over Baylor and Georgia holding serve against Alabama would see OK State in the playoff. So let's take those games as they are, gentlemen. Let's start with Michigan first. My immediate response to you guys following the victory against Ohio State was, at the time I wasn't sure who it was that they would play. And I said, I don't care who it is. I'll take the other side. And it's Iowa. The line is bigger than I would have expected. I'm not saying that Michigan's not going to win this football game. Coming off of a big win against Ohio State, and I know it's the Big Ten championship, there's going to be a letdown element in this. And there is also, you guys can disagree if you want, but I feel like every championship weekend we go into, there's always going to be a game. Like, not this whole weekend isn't going to go as we expect. Somebody is going to slip up. And Harbaugh is finally starting to get over the hump and starting to win games that we don't typically expect him to. He gets over the Ohio State hump. Now you're expecting him to continue that. It's still, Michigan's still got to, they're going to get in the playoff if they do, but they've still got to, they're still proving as we go along here. Chico, you are the Michigan man. I'll let you respond.
For years while Harbaugh was there for his first 5 years, he never seemed to win big games, always choked to them, definitely couldn't beat Ohio State. Kind of always seemed like he could get some big name kids to come into the program, but they never developed throughout the years, kind of plateaued a bit. But as you can see this year too, some of his players were getting better as the year went on. They're winning some games that you usually in the past see him lose. I don't think they're going to lose to Iowa. I don't think they'll beat them as much as the line says they will, but I think this is the year they'll make it to the college playoffs. I don't think they're not going to win the national championship, but I think this is the year they make it all the way. And this is going to help Harbaugh get some more recruits coming in, more 5-stars. And I think it'll be a lot more competitive year with Ohio State going forward.
Can't believe you said that Michigan's going to make the championship game. That's kind of a shock.
I said they'll make the playoffs. I said they won't win a national championship.
Okay.
No, I don't think it's a shock. I think assuming they get through Iowa, they're going to the national championship.
No, I think they get the playoff. I don't think they get the natty. It depends. I don't think they get to the national championship game. I think they will make the playoff. I don't think that they will make the national championship game, though. I could see – because honestly, in mine right now, I have it where Alabama still finds a way to squeak in. And I see Notre Dame as the 3. So I could see it being Notre Dame and Georgia.
We're going to get to Notre Dame here in a second because I've got a huge, huge issue with that whole situation.
Shocking.
I got a bigger problem with the committee than I do Brian Kelly. But the only way Notre Dame gets in is if Alabama loses convincingly to Georgia, and then they're going to need one of OK State and Michigan to lose as well. They need 2 of the 3 to fall. So a situation where Alabama stays and Notre Dame gets in would basically mean that OK State and Michigan are both going to lose and Alabama kind of hangs around. And then even in that scenario, I'm not sure that's enough to get Notre Dame in.
So you don't think Notre Dame would jump Cincinnati as it is right now?
No, because of the committee. I think the committee has basically come out and basically said, even if the dominoes fall the way I think they need to for Notre Dame to get in, the committee has basically put them on notice that they're not fond of putting them in. And I think Notre Dame has now responded to give them every reason why, if you don't put us in, it's basically you blackballing us.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of things are going to happen. But no, if Cincinnati beats Houston, I find it very far-fetched to find a scenario in which Notre Dame jumps Cincinnati.
Okay. Because my thought is, and I'll get kind of further in depth with this and talk about my whole breakdown of it. But I see Alabama not necessarily keeping it close. I think it's going to be a pretty easy Georgia win, all things considered, since Kirby Smart has never been able to really close the deal, and Georgia teams as of late have not been able to win even with big leads. So I see them still winning because Alabama's offense the last couple of weeks has just been non-existent. The defense has looked okay, hasn't looked great. So there's a lot of issues there. So I can see them losing by 10-14. If they lose by 10-14, and Oklahoma State loses, and Michigan is close with Iowa, and Cincinnati wins a close one with Houston, I see the potential there for Notre Dame to actually squeak in and get past Cincinnati if it's a close win.
If Bama loses by 10, I think Bama still might have a hold on staying in.
They could. That's why I said Bama could be 4.
I'm looking at it as Bama needs to lose. I'm looking for Bama to lose in the high teens. I need a 17-point loss. I need something that kind of puts Bama out of the conversation. It's going to be a lot of how that game looks too. The score might not necessarily dictate. Even if Bama hangs around, is it merely because Georgia couldn't do anything, or is it because basically, basically Bama was inept? Yeah, it'll depend on how that game looks.
I mean, there's people out there saying that Bryce Young is a shoo-in for the Heisman as long as he performs halfway decent against Georgia, and that is a bold-faced lie. So that tells you where people are at with Alabama.
Here's my question to you, Josh, because we were talking at the end of the Auburn game, and when the running back goes out of bounds, they give Bama a minute and a half of clock to work with. I told you, I said, you got a minute and a half. I said, you're fine. And the biggest thing I think that changed in that minute and a half, besides the fact that Auburn basically sat back and let Bama move down the field, was also Bama suddenly did something that they hadn't done all game, which is go tempo, which I think allowed Bryce Young to kind of settle down, not worry about, dissecting things as much as kind of keep moving. And, when you're focused on just moving down the field and not thinking as much, it's probably easier for a young kid. I'm curious if that's the route. There's a strong group out there that feels Alabama is going to win this game. And I'm wondering if the path to victory, okay, not that I think anybody on in this group sees one, but if the path to victory is using tempo, just come out and do tempo from the start. Okay? If you're going to sit there and stare at that Georgia defense and try and dissect it, you're gonna be in for a long day. So instead of trying to do that, let's just go in there, take the NFL approach, okay? Plan out your first 15 to 20 plays like they're pre-planned. Tell Bryce, here's what we're running. Go in. Don't worry about what you see. Just run the play, find the openings, and go.
It's not a bad thought, but also seeing that Kirby Smart was a defensive coordinator at Alabama, so he knows Saban's mind. He knows Saban's mindset. He knows how he play calls. Saban also knows how Kirby Smart likes to play call. So it's a big chess match between the two of them. Bryce Young may look the most comfortable in in a tempo in that game, but we're forgetting that like Williams was out because he got ejected for that targeting. He got
You got
for
the
the
targeting
targeting
on
call.
on the punt.
Yeah, so that's Bryce Young's favorite receiver. And then I mean you have Mechie and you have Slade. Like you have these guys that are there that are talented and they're all very good receivers. Bama's known for having good receivers, and these guys aren't quite the level of like a Jalen Waddle or Devontae Smith, but they're also younger. So like they're not juniors and seniors yet. These guys are freshmen and sophomores. So I mean, Bryce Young is coming in throwing to his target has always been Williams all season. That's like who he's most comfortable with, and you took that away from him in the Auburn game. So that Auburn game might not have been as close had that not happened. Kirby Smart though is going to try and take away those options, and tempo only works in those short bursts like that. That Alabama offensive line hasn't been able to hold a wet paper bag. Like they're like a wet paper bag. You can tear through them pretty easily if you decide to come with pressure. So even in tempo, you have to think that Bryce Young is going to be able to make the quick throws and get the ball off and do all of that, which I'm not confident that he's able to do as a freshman right now. I haven't really seen that from him all year when he's been under pressure. And he's not making bad throwing mistakes. He's just not getting enough time. So it's very similar to like what we said about the Vikings for the past couple of years. Like he's got no offensive line help, and without that, he can't really do much. So I could see Temple working for a little bit, but there's no way they can keep that pace. Like they haven't shown all year that they can keep that pace.
My counter to your statement that if he doesn't go out with the targeting, maybe the Auburn game isn't that close. If that Auburn quarterback, I've never wanted Bo Nix so much in my life. That Auburn quarterback was so bad. Like it was very easy in the fourth quarter for the Alabama defense to basically make sure Auburn couldn't do anything because the guy got hurt. He couldn't move. He was trying to act like he was Byron Leftwich. And basically it was auto run, first and second down, and then third down, let me attempt to drop back and throw the ball, and I've got no idea where it's going. Like, I may be looking at a receiver, but it doesn't mean that it's even going to be in his vicinity. So
Right.
it was awful.
Was he throwing the ball like Tim Tebow?
The third string is a walk-on, and I was like, if he walked on and even made the team as a third string, he's got to have at least something that's better than this guy. I would have taken him in that last quarter against Alabama. That's how bad that was. But I digress.
Yeah, it wasn't great, but I'll take it.
I can't remember watching a college game where I was like, this guy is that bad. He was that bad. I say a lot of bad things about Bo Nix. I hate Bo Nix with a passion. I think he's an overrated piece of crap. I have never been a bigger supporter of Bo Nix after I saw that guy. I said, now I know why Bo Nix starts at Auburn. Because there's nobody close to him.
No.
I heard Bo Nix is going to be the Giants' new quarterback.
Yeah. No thanks.
He could be.
Could be.
Yeah.
Kirby Smart, last time that they played in a big game like this, was it I could be wrong, but national championship game when Tua hit Devontae Smith on the sideline for that touchdown to basically turn the game around and have Alabama win the national championship?
No.
Or have they?
It was the year after that.
Kirby was the head coach, though, right?
We did that to him 2 years back.
But I thought, I'm just saying, like, Kirby has on paper, far better team compared to Alabama right now. But, anything can happen. But if he gets up big, is he going to keep his foot on the pedal, or is he going to do what we've seen him do in the past sometimes and let it off and then have Bama come back?
Are you saying is that what Kirby's going to do, or is that what Saban's going to do?
No, Kirby. He's been up and kind of changed the game plan, and then has lost to Bama because he switches it up. He's not going to keep the foot on the pedal, and then you see him come lose.
I would think, and Josh, you can tell me if you disagree. I think if you're Kirby, Okay, because style points obviously don't matter here, but because of what Chico was mentioning, and because I think Kirby would despite winning, if Kirby can also make sure Bama is out of the equation, he would do so. He's not going to take his foot off of the pedal until this game is completely out of the question, which would be sometime in the fourth quarter. Until that point, okay, even if the game is 42-0 in the third quarter, he's not taking the foot off the pedal. He wants to put the nail in the coffin of Alabama.
Mm-hmm. You have to do what Coach O and Joe Burrow did to Alabama in 2019. Like that's what you have to do to Bama to kind of prove it, to kind of settle it and be like, they don't belong here. Like when LSU beat the brakes off us that year, we earned that loss and they earned that win. Like they left no doubt. And that's what Georgia has to do, not only to keep Alabama out of the playoff, but to really show that like they are as good as they've claimed to be the entire season.
I was like, the thing that Georgia doesn't want to do is they don't want to leave a question when this game is over about if Alabama is in their, should be on the same field. Because if that's the case, then the committee is going to be thinking that way too. And then we're looking at Alabama some way staying in this. And we could conceivably see Alabama and Georgia right back again in a few weeks.
Yep.
It's possible.
Yeah, we don't want that. We don't need that.
I was like, Kirby Smart and Georgia certainly don't want that.
No. You give Nick Saban another shot at you after now he sees everything. Even with that team, he can figure a way out to beat you.
Yeah, look at like the last time this happened where they played in the regular season and then played again in the national championship with LSU. That was supposed to be the game of the century that ended up like 6-3 or something like that.
That game was terrible.
Right?
God,
and then
I sat there and watched it and I'm just like, all right, something's gonna happen. Right?
And then
something
nothing happened.
Nothing.
Yeah.
That was Zettenberg, right? The quarterback?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then you had you get to the national championship game that year, and then Alabama beats them 28-0. Like just makes them look bad. So if you're Kirby Smart, you know that. And that's definitely not what you want. So you're right. Georgia wants to end it now so they don't see them later.
Yeah. Moving on. So Oklahoma State survives against Oklahoma. Caleb Williams tried to do his best running all over the place to try and get Oklahoma over the hump, but his legs were the only thing he did because I think he threw for like 40 yards in the second half. He was bad. But nevertheless, Oklahoma State, for the first time, and I think over a decade, wins the interstate rivalry. And they now get Baylor for the Big 12 title game and a shot at the playoff. When you look at the three games, as far as, the three big games, as far as Bama, Georgia, Michigan, Iowa, Baylor, Oklahoma State, this is the one I think if you're going to pin me to one as far as an upset, this is the one I'm looking at. Because I think Baylor matches up really well with Oklahoma State. For everything I said about Michigan against Iowa in a letdown, I think it's even a bigger one for Oklahoma State because I don't think Oklahoma State offensively is fine, but defensively they're good for the Big 12, but not good for, on a national landscape. So if you have any sort of letdown, I would say you're going to put a whole lot of pressure on your offense to put up points. And I think Baylor's defense can do enough to keep them in check. So, yeah, I think if you're going to pin me to picking one, this is the one that I'll be looking at as far as, looking for, from a Notre Dame perspective, looking for the door to open.
Yeah, I agree. I think Baylor has the best chance of winning that game too. Sorry, Chico, did I cut you off?
Yeah, but it was the same thing. Oklahoma State's always had a high-powered offense. When Gundy was there, their defense has always been iffy. Baylor, before all the trouble they got into a few years ago, was building a really good defensive squad and kind of looking at their offense as a secondary. But I see Baylor coming back and beating them, and shit, maybe Oklahoma or Notre Dame gets a slide in on the slide in on the playoffs.
It's funny. We're looking at the quote unquote favorites here, and it's like you're asking me to put faith in Jim Harbaugh, who before this year couldn't win a game, Mike Gundy, who has continually had issues winning anything of relevance, and as Josh has mentioned, Kirby Smart, who has had issues beating Alabama, who's staring him in the face. So, and that's where you're asking me to put faith in this weekend. So, tread cautiously with what we have here. All right. So, let's take a look at sorry. All right, so let's take a look at the Notre Dame situation. And I'll let you guys talk first because obviously I'm emotional about this and I'll have a lot to say. To round this up here and before as we dive in, following last weekend, it comes out that Brian Kelly is leaving Notre Dame for LSU. The Notre Dame athletic director said he just didn't take him off guard. He kind of knew this was coming. Apparently, there had been a lot of issues with Kelly and the AD as far as Kelly wanting Notre Dame to be a little looser with people that they brought in and wanting amenities and upgrades to facility and things like that. Kelly wanted a lot of things that Notre Dame just apparently didn't give into. Oh, well and good. Fine, whatever. Kelly also apparently was trying to bring in some of the Notre Dame assistants over to LSU, and the assistants basically kind of feel the same way that most Notre Dame does at Brian Kelly right now, which is basically telling them to kick rocks. So on Tuesday, we obviously have the playoff rankings come out. Notre Dame obviously not in. Notre Dame at 6 behind Oklahoma State, which I found a little surprising, but okay. And the committee comes out and says that the Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame will have an effect in what ultimately happens to Notre Dame, which I'll be frank, fuck you. And Notre Dame, I think, in response to this, Marcus Freeman, the defensive coordinator, may have been the ultimate choice to be the next head coach anyway. But I think Notre Dame wanting to act quickly, show that there is no major turnover happening despite Brian Kelly leaving, and basically in response, the committee has named Marcus Freeman the next head coach. Tommy Rees is still staying on as offensive coordinator. Basically, nobody else is leaving besides Brian Kelly. Like I said, I think this is direct response to the playoff committee and basically saying that if things play out, as they potentially could, and there is an opening for us to get in, there is no reason why you shouldn't put us in. Like I said, I have plenty of feelings about the whole situation, but I will kick it to you guys to give your thoughts first. Chico, go ahead.
I was actually a little surprised with Kelly leaving. I thought he's been there this long. Why leave? But with him going to LSU, I was surprised. Well, no, I wasn't too surprised with the was it Freeman, the defensive coordinator, getting the head coaching job. I actually was thinking it was going to be the Wake Forest coach. Possibly they reach out to him, seeing what he done with them. But besides Brian Kelly leaving, the more thing that I was more surprised about is his new accent he has in his presser that he did down there in Louisiana when he was talking about his family. And does this I am a little surprised, but at the same time I wasn't, because we also seen Brian Kelly do this to Cincinnati going into one of their biggest games, I think probably in the college or in their program's history. 10-something years ago when they had that squad play who was it? Maybe Georgia. It might have been.
I just remember it was the Sugar Bowl.
It was a Sugar Bowl. I think they got the dog snot knocked out of them, but they go into that game. He leaves them for Notre Dame. Then he goes there and gets just slapped around every time he makes it to the national championship by Alabama or some other team in the college football. But we'll see how he does there in LSU. I do know they have a lot stricter recruiting at Notre Dame from what I've heard, especially with the academics part. Like, you have to, be a smart person to play there. So maybe that's why he wants to go to LSU. You can tell me, hey, it's still a 4-year school, but you got guys like Jamarcus Russell that played there, and we all know his story.
So what you're saying is Brian Kelly's going to be allowed to recruit dumb people now. That's what you're telling me.
Now, there's not a lot of smart guys in the SEC.
Well, hey, there's a few, and they all coach it.
AJ McCarron?
I'm sorry, is he still in the NFL? Yes, he is.
Yeah, he is. He's a backup.
Mac Jones, best rookie quarterback in the class.
You have one Alabama quarterback doing good since Joe Namath and Kenny Stabler.
Tua's actually doing well since he came back from injury.
And you guys were dogging on him, and I said, give him a shot. He had a near-ending hip problem. You guys he sucks.
First of all, I want to point out that you want to say that here live, but in our chat, every single week, you're like, that guy, Alabama quarterbacks suck. Like, there's no such thing as a good Alabama quarterback. So, now you want to come on here
he's starting to come back.
Let's calm down with the Tua hype train, please.
All I'm saying is he doesn't look bad. Mac Jones is looking like the next Tom Brady with the from figure to performance in New England. Like, it hates me to see New England doing well. I like that Mac Jones is the one quarterback everybody thought was going to do bad for Alabama when he came out, looking like he should have been the first overall pick. So kudos to him on that. The whole Brian Kelly thing is weird for me. Like, you're at LSU, you're at Notre Dame. You're a top 10 team in the country. You're competing for a chance at the college football playoff, and you want to go to LSU. LSU, who's been floundering since Joe Burrow and everybody left. And it's not necessarily the fault of Coach O, because, Coach O didn't really recruit that team. He just kind of made that team better. It was like Les Miles' recruiting class. I think it was his last one. So, any credit that Brian Kelly gets within the next few years at LSU is going to be Coach O related mostly. Brian Kelly's guys aren't going to start probably for 2-3 seasons, so we'd have to wait and see kind of what he does there. I don't hate it. I don't really care. Brian Kelly's not a guy that I see as a threat to come in and coach against Nick Saban. Like, he's going to be able to recruit, sure. He recruited well at Notre Dame, got them to where they are. He's going to be able to recruit, higher levels of talent without having to worry about grades and everything like that. So he's going to get quality players. I don't know that his coaching style necessarily fits with the SEC, so it might take a little bit for him to kind of get back on track or to learn how the SEC football works. Because he's going to have a tougher schedule, and he's going to get beat by some mediocre to mid-level teams for a while until he kind of figures it out. So I don't know who Notre Dame is going to bring in. Didn't you guys just promote your defensive coordinator or something like that? He's your interim?
No, he's the coach. No interim.
No interim. They're just making him the coach. Okay.
He's the coach going forward.
I suppose that makes sense, considering any other big name coaching hire right now isn't really there's nobody of note that's out there right now that they can really snipe anyway. Lane Kiffin doesn't care about Notre Dame; he only cares about USC because then he gets California beaches. So there's nobody really for them to take. So we'll see where this coordinator goes. I'm sure at some point maybe an NFL coach will come back to college, and they might try and snag them depending on how well this guy does. But we'll see. It's tough for Notre Dame being this good and then losing their head coach, but that's kind of how it goes. I have a feeling the Gophers are going to go like 2-10 or 10-2 one year, and PJ Fleck is going to sign on with an SEC team or like a top 5 school, and I'm going to be sitting here just like, man, we had a good coach, and now he coaches for somebody way better than us. So it happens in time, but you'll be okay in the long run. I don't think you're going anywhere.
All right. Let me dive in. As far as the Brian Kelly thing is concerned, I get his mindset. He's looking at this as, what else can I do to elevate the situation? We've gotten to the national championship game. We've gotten killed. And I basically, I have no room for error. Whereas if you're in a conference, which Notre Dame is not, okay, if you're at LSU and you lose a game, you can get to the SEC championship win and make the playoff and get through. If you're Notre Dame and you're sitting here with a loss, you're on the outside looking in, looking for help. So I get it from the Brian Kelly thing. I don't like the fact that we're sitting here trying to see if we can get in, and he left, and then he comes up with this, he basically tells the team that there's a 7 a.m. meeting, talks to them for 5 minutes and bolts out. He's got a fake fucking accent now. I don't like any of that. But I get the mindset. So I'm not going to kill him for that. My issue is firmly with the fucking committee. Okay, who have always been pieces of shit. We've dissected that for weeks on this show. Okay, even if you feel that the Brian Kelly leaving has an effect on you and how you view Notre Dame in the final picture, how the hell do you come out and verbalize it? Okay, what part of PR 101 says just throw that out there for the media to take? Okay, so I think that had that not happened, I think Notre Dame may have waited this out and tried to take a run at Cincinnati and Luke Fickell. I think that could have been a situation. But when the committee basically says that Brian Kelly's leaving has an effect on how we're going to look at this thing, their response is, you don't need to look at anything. Our defensive coordinator, who's been here all year running this team, is now our head coach. None of the assistants are leaving. We have all the kids. This is the team that we've had all year. So if Alabama goes and loses, and then OK State loses, or Michigan loses, or whatever, if there's a reason to put us in, put us the fuck in. Because we're the same team we've always been, whether Brian Kelly's here or not. Plain and simple. The committee is a bunch of bitches okay, the fact that they came out here and said that as some fucking half-assed reason for them to try and put Notre Dame out. Okay, if the cards fall where Notre Dame should get in and they don't get in, I don't want a fucking 18 playoff as it is, but I'll be the first one to fucking call for it after this fucking horse shit. I mean, this is garbage. I mean, it's not like they're going. Notre Dame has done everything. It's not like they're going in with some interim coach, some lame duck coach or some guy that they pulled off the street that knows the team for a couple of weeks. It's status quo. Okay, do we know that what kind of drop off there'll be from Kelly to Freeman? No, we don't. But I mean, Freeman's been there all year. You're not losing any coordinators. The coaching staff, for the most part, is basically the same thing. The team is the same team it's been. So again, if Alabama loses in some sort of definitive, scenario, and then you get Michigan or OK State to lose, Notre Dame better get the fuck in. Fuck you. Don't give me some half-ass reason why Notre Dame doesn't get in. Okay? Is it likely that Notre Dame ends up getting Georgia and we get the same situation that I get every time we get in here? It is likely. Okay, I'm probably setting myself for another ass whooping. But if the situation plays out for that ass whooping, I want it. I want the pain. Don't give me some half-ass reason why it can't happen.
Can I give you a whole ass reason why it won't happen?
Is it a valid one?
Yes.
Okay.
You lost to Cincinnati.
Ooh.
So
At home.
the loss to Cincinnati is the reason why they're on the outside looking in. Okay, and I will say this, okay, because a lot of people who are Notre Dame detractors have brought this up, and this is true. All right, when you look at their schedule before the year, it looked a lot better than it does now. Okay, they played teams like Wisconsin and some others who were ranked at the beginning of the season who are no longer ranked. So the schedule itself does not look great. All right, but, and I will continue to bring this up, Chico actually kind of went where I was going to go with this. Cincinnati has been in a major bowl game one time when Brian Kelly left. That didn't end well. Who are they getting in this scenario where it's going to end well? Because guess what? I'm of the feeling that when this is all said and done, okay, they're going to get Michigan. Michigan is going to wipe the floor with them. Harbaugh is not going to look this good since when he made the Super Bowl. And then when that's done, and when Michigan has wiped the floor with them, I want the chat and everybody else. I don't want to hear another word about the non-Power 5 getting in the fucking playoff anymore.
What? They're in.
Because Cincinnati is carrying the flag for all non-Power 5. If you get in, you got in, you better fucking do something with it. Because if you
then Notre Dame should never be allowed to get back in ever again.
I feel like if Cincinnati loses, UCF have to revoke their national title banner that they have.
Yes, the fake national title banner. But,
yes.
I mean, if Cincinnati goes in and pulls a Notre Dame and gets their ass whooped, it's done. I don't want to hear it anymore. I've been telling you for weeks they shouldn't be in, and I don't want them in.
They're going to be in the Big 12 next year anyways.
That's not a real conference.
That's next year.
And another thing, Luke Fickell is not going to go coach Notre Dame. Why want to coach a team that he beat? They can't even beat him. It's like, I'm not going to coach a team that can't beat me. They're trash.
He's going to go coach at Old Dominion.
Hell yeah.
I was like, because if Luke Fickell was sitting there undefeated with Notre Dame instead of undefeated with Cincinnati, we wouldn't be having a conversation about whether or not he's in the playoff.
Oh, no, 100%. But
that's why he would leave.
Luke Fickell's a way better coach than Brian Kelly ever was.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, Brian Kelly can go fall in a bayou for all I care at this point. Fuck him.
I'll say, look, it was me and my family. We're out there in Indiana. We're coming down here to LSU now. You didn't talk like that in Notre Dame, did you? Well, hold on.
Good God. Right. So Kelly goes to LSU. We haven't touched on Lincoln Riley leaving Oklahoma for USC. You know, him and Spencer Rattler getting the hell out of there. I think Lincoln will be a little better received at USC than wherever Spencer lands. But you know, people are like, why would Lincoln leave Oklahoma for USC? Because have you seen Oklahoma? I mean, before Lincoln got there, with Lincoln getting there, I mean, you can have all the offensive firepower in the world, but nobody respects the Big 12, and Oklahoma always trips itself up. The Pac-12 is garbage. Lincoln gets USC up and running, they'll run through the Pac-12 easy. Oh, yeah. Chip Kelly will be in the rearview mirror real quick.
Oh, yeah. Well, everyone was like, oh, he's scared of the SEC. He doesn't want to go there. I was like, yeah, you can say that Orrs is a smart decision on his end. You go to USC, you get these recruits. The only teams you have to worry about is, UCLA with Kelly, and an Oregon team. And right now, ASU is kind of on the fence, but all three of those teams always find a way to trip themselves up on a way too.
No, the only team that he at this moment has to worry about is Oregon. UCLA, which me and Josh thought was on the come up, shot themselves in the foot repeatedly this year. So I don't think they're concerned, and I think Lincoln will blow by Chip. I mean, basically all the big recruits that Lincoln had got to Oklahoma have now said we're going to USC.
Recommitted, yeah.
So give Lincoln. He might not do it right away. He might need 2 years or 3.
It's just like
he's going to run through the Pac-12.
Oh, of course. I say so. It's just like when you draft someone, you wait 3 years to reevaluate that draft and see if the picks work out. You got to wait 2 to 3 years to see these kids that he recruits develop and see where he goes from there.
He's
Now,
looking
can
at
he
it
win right
as,
away? He can win in the Pac-12, yes, but I don't see him shooting up to a college football playoff game in his first year.
no, Lincoln's looking at this as, give me 2-3 years. If I'm a one-loss USC team that wins the Pac-12, I'm getting in the playoff. Boom, done.
Yeah. I think it's a great move. I even though I'm an ASU fan, it's cool when USC's winning and competing against other teams. So I'm not too upset about it. That is also going to help the Pac-12 get more recognition when they start winning and they start competing better. But yeah, I like Lincoln Riley. I didn't think it was a bad choice. Spencer Rattler, though, I was hoping was going to transfer to ASU because that's his home state, his home team. But from everything I read on Twitter, he is not. And Jaden is.
Chico, I think you're the first person that's ever advocated for actually wanting Spencer Rattler.
Have you seen our quarterback at ASU? He's good.
I've seen Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, I don't know. They're probably the same.
They are much more the same than you want them to be. You're not going to have a good time. What's interesting to me is but why isn't Spencer Rattler just declaring for the draft? Like, honestly, he could go to the NFL.
I think he's trying to raise his draft stock.
I was going to say, he's got to raise his stock. Who's drafting him right now?
You're going to get him
where there isn't really any quarterbacks to begin with. Like, he has the best shot of going in the first round. He has a better shot this year than I think he does next.
Jeff, get out of here. You been reading the scouts' blogs again?
Yeah, there's no way Rattler would get drafted in the first round right now. None.
I mean, who goes above him this year?
Pickett goes ahead of him.
That's a fake name.
I was like, yeah. Sam Howell goes ahead of him. Kenny Pickett goes ahead of him. The kid from Nevada goes ahead of him.
Oh, Strong is going to be a great quarterback. I would even say Fresno State quarterback.
I was saying, there's like 4 or 5 quarterbacks just off the top of my head that go well ahead of
I would take Ole Miss's quarterback. I'd take Ritter too from Cincinnati.
We haven't seen Ritter play a real team, so I wouldn't get ahead of yourself.
The only team that was supposed to be good was Notre Dame, and they're trash.
They are trash.
They're not a real team. Touchdown Jesus sucks. Yeah, I said it. But yeah, they're losing all their 5-star commitments. You got them all committed to USC now. I heard they're talking about Williams is going to enter the transfer portal and possibly go to SC. So we'll see how it goes. Oklahoma's. I don't even know who Oklahoma's going to go after as a head coach. The staff obviously is not good.
All right, so Josh. All right, as far as your Spencer Rattler in the first round thing, I'm going to run names. I'm gonna throw some names at you. You tell me when Spencer Rattler goes ahead of this person, okay?
Okay.
Matt Corral. No. Kenny Pickett. No. Sam Howell. No.
No.
Carson Strong. No.
Hell no.
Malik Willis from Liberty. No.
Well, he could go ahead of Malik Willis from Liberty.
No.
I could see.
I haven't seen
Malik Willis play though, so.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Who would you rather draft? And I'm not fond on either of these, but nevertheless, would you rather draft him or Desmond Ridder from Cincinnati?
I don't like either.
Yeah, I don't.
Well, I didn't say I like either.
But I had to. I would have to go with Rattler just on the competition that he played.
Higher
ceiling. If I'm drafting him, I'm going to draft to a team that I already have a quarterback that's kind of towards the end of his career that he can sit behind for 2-3 years.
There's a Chico. You might know this one. Jake Haener from Fresno State.
Yeah, that's the guy. I would take him above Rattler.
Yeah.
That kid right there, I would see going to the Saints because he's got a big arm and he looks like a Sean Payton with quarterback. Kind of reminds me of how Drew Brees played, but with a stronger arm.
Yeah, New Orleans doesn't need a quarterback though. They've got Jameis Winston. They're good.
They got a plethora of quarterbacks that you haven't seen throughout this year. None of them actually play quarterback though. That's the problem.
Yeah. I'll say we saw some great quarterback play last night. Let's see. Levis from Kentucky. Ellaby from West Michigan.
Yeah. None of those guys are first teams.
West Michigan? Western?
So Rattler's not going first round. Stop, please.
No.
Please. This is like when the scout tried to tell me that Lawrence was going to be the number 1 pick last year.
He was.
Oh, well, we know he was, but the scout said he wouldn't be.
Oh no.
Okay.
What happened was as soon as the Jets lost the first round or first overall pick, all of a sudden his scouting report on Lawrence just did a 180. He's not very good.
No.
His thing was big on Zach Wilson at that point.
The scout said that when Urban went to Jacksonville, Urban was going to draft Fields.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that.
I thought Fields was going to go to Atlanta.
I thought Fields was going to fall to the Vikings. Like,
that's right.
legitimate.
The scout could have broken down every one of those quarterbacks I just said.
We need to get him on. Where's he at? Probably get us some single.
The scout will never be on here.
He's probably at the MMA gym.
He's probably learning how to shrimp and do basic jiu-jitsu.
I don't know what any of that is.
All right, so let's switch to the NFL. It came out today that, if you remember, there was a story that came out from Antonio Brown's chef that he had faked his vaccination card. The NFL has concluded their investigation, and Antonio Brown, along with another member of the Buccaneers, have been suspended 3 games for faking vaccination cards. Here's my question. When Antonio Brown signed with the Buccaneers, it was purely a Tom Brady recommendation. And Bruce Arians made it a point to state that he had told Antonio Brown there would be no second chances. There's no slip-ups here. How in the hell do you do this? Fake the vax card, make the organization look bad, and he's not automatically cut. How's he still on the team right now? I mean, he hasn't played in 6 weeks anyway.
Because Tom Brady needs him. Tom Brady really calls the shots in Tampa. It's not Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians can say whatever he wants, but he has to go to Tom Brady and be like, it's okay that I said that, right? Like, at the end of the day, Antonio Brown's going to be around as long as Tom Brady wants him to be around. And I don't understand how a situation like straight out of bench warmers with the IM12 just paper written with $20 in it only warrants like a 3-game suspension with like, is he getting fined on top of it, have they said, or is it just a suspension?
I haven't seen anything.
I think it's just a suspension.
Yeah, because like you get guys like Aaron Rodgers who Aaron Rodgers claimed that he was vaccinated, wasn't vaccinated.
Well, no. Okay, I'm glad you went there. I'm glad you went there, Josh, because everybody wants to tie AB into Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers never said, I am vaccinated. He said the I'm immunized thing. But everybody in the Packers building and at the league knew he wasn't vaccinated. Okay? Antonio Brown walked around and said, I am vaccinated. I am 12.
Yeah. You think that no one knew that he was lying, though? I mean, obviously somebody else was doing it, too. So, like,
my point is I'm not saying that nobody knew, but I'm saying that I don't think the higher ups in the Bucs organization knew. I don't think the league certainly knew. I mean, everybody in the Packer building knew the situation with Aaron Rodgers. Everybody in the league office knew the situation with Aaron Rodgers.
So why did Aaron Rodgers?
One is not the other.
So Aaron Rodgers got a fine but didn't get suspended, and Antonio Brown gets suspended but not a fine.
Well, this is Roger Goodell. I don't expect him to get it right.
Yeah. Goodell should almost put him on the exempt list for this. Honestly.
I'll
Well,
call
I
him
mean,
up.
is he
Let
going to
him
hand
know.
over his phone?
Oh no, that he replaced that actually 2 days before he requested it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
got the upgrade.
You got the upgrade. Yeah, the old one broke somehow,
Yeah.
mysterious running accident or something.
I hear.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Chico, any thoughts on the AB situation?
I don't know, not really. I mean, you knew that this was going to happen eventually with some of these guys. I mean, people are doing it out there in, regular civilization and stuff. So I'm not surprised, honestly, that Antonio Brown would do something like this, seeing the things that he's done in the past. But 3 games, I mean, that's about right, I guess. It's one of those things that we've never had something like this come up. So you don't know what to suspend him. It's not like, he ran someone over the car or he, did taunting. So you fine him, all that. So I guess 3 games is fine. It's not like he's playing right now. Like you said, he hasn't played since week 2, I think, 1 or 2. So
Nah, see, I'm on Josh's side here. I think that with as anal as the NFL has been with their COVID protocols and all this other stuff and all this other garbage, that if you've got a guy faking his vaccination, you send the message that you take it seriously, and he's done for the year. What is 3
you
games?
would think that, but again, this is the NFL and Roger Goodell. The guy never gets it right, and then when he wants to try and punish somebody,
Well, yeah, that's why it's 3
people
games.
yeah,
You look at Antonio Brown on the whole, and Antonio Brown was a guy that had sexual assault allegations against him, who was known to be a difficult teammate. Like Ben Roethlisberger talked about it all the time, how hard Antonio Brown was to work with. Then you get, all these allegations come out about him. He seems to get by, no thought, no afterthought about it. Bruce Arians tells him, no mistakes here and you're out. Then this happens. He gets a 3-game suspension from the league, and the coach is quiet. Like, I don't know what it is about this guy in particular that's allowing him to get away with so much. Like, Josh Gordon got punished way harsher for something way less serious. So, like, it doesn't make sense to me.
As
first
our
off,
guy
he was
Carl,
smoking the devil's lettuce, sir. All right, very serious.
as our guy Carl mentions, AB probably got a bigger fine for wearing the watch than he did for this.
That's right. He did a watch thing too, just like Odell did. I forgot about it. Those two just
in
can't stay out of the
Oklahoma,
league.
he loses another 5-star commitment to where USC.
Oh, weird. I feel
say,
bad
AB
for
is one-
Oklahoma.
I don't.
AB is one of the few. Who do you feel bad for?
Oklahoma, because they're coming to the SEC with no Lincoln Riley and no 5 stars.
Well, that
gonna
was
be
their
bad.
decision.
They're gonna get dog walked by Vanderbilt.
It's going to be amazing.
Antonio Brown is about the only thing that Mike Tomlin has gotten right in Pittsburgh.
He won a Super Bowl, too.
No. I'm not talking about in his whole stint. I'm talking about like of the last 4 or 5 years.
All right.
Because, all right, let's look at the Steelers as a whole here. You've hung on to Ben too long. Okay? You brought back Juju, which, I'm sorry, did Juju ever show you he was a number 1? Okay, he had the opportunity to be a number 1 when AB was gone. Still wasn't a number 1, and then Claypool looked more like a number 1 than he was. But you still felt the need to bring back Juju. Now you've got Claypool. I forget if it was Juju or Claypool. You've got one of them basically saying we'd play better if you would play music during
Claypool.
practice. And Tomlin's basically like, I'm the coach here, so I'll worry about that, and you guys just practice. I mean,
Well,
the Steelers
that's
are with
because
another
they went
500
to
team
Notre
that's
Dame.
actually in a playoff game, if they even get in.
I don't think they're getting in.
What is the future plan here? I mean, remember, they traded a first-round pick to the Dolphins for Minka Fitzpatrick. That's worked out real well. Worked out better for the Dolphins. The Dolphins haven't missed a beat. When the Steelers, I mean, look at the future, okay? When they finally cut ties with Big Ben, which should have been 2 years ago, okay, what's the plan? What, Dwayne Haskins? Mason Rudolph?
No, they can trade for Kirk Cousins.
Deal.
Here's the thing. If you are the Steelers and you're Mike Tomlin and you think that your window is open just based off of if I have a competent quarterback, okay? Why wouldn't the Dolphins, all right, you guys have both said, oh, look at Tua. Tua's turning it around. All right, the Dolphins don't need to do anything. They've got their quarterback, right? So let's take the Dolphins out of this. Why wouldn't the Steelers go down to the Deshaun Watson road?
I mean, they already have one quarterback with sexual assault allegations. Why not add Deshaun Watson? I don't think they have the trade capital here.
Probably don't have the cap space either.
Trade all the picks. You obviously don't give a hell about. You don't care about picks anyway.
Well,
I mean, if they traded a first rounder for a cornerback in a season that they weren't going to make the playoffs, then what do they care?
They care about giving picks for defensive players, not for offensive players.
No. They give away picks for defense players. They never get picks.
Right. So they're not going to give away picks for an offensive player. So they're not going to give away picks for Deshaun Watson. And they're not going to trade any of their defensive players to get him either.
No, just keep throwing Mason Rudolph back there. That works out wonderfully.
Do you get rid of Juju or Chase Claypool and then hope that Deontay Johnson plays like a number one?
Deontay Johnson right now is just as good as Claypool's been. Juju is nothing. They should have never brought Juju back.
Yep.
Luckily, he's only on a 1-year contract, so.
Yeah.
I mean,
they wanted to bring him back.
Here's the thing, because we're gonna talk about baseball momentarily, and that is the funny thing about baseball and football. In baseball, we want teams to hold on to guys maybe longer than they should, and sometimes they give up on guys quicker than they should. Whereas in the NFL, they hold on to guys until basically the rubber is off the tire. Okay? You can look at the Giants with Eli. You can look at the Saints with Drew Brees, the Steelers with Ben. I mean, it's mostly quarterbacks, that I'm talking about. But, I mean, you just run it till the rubber. Like, if that guy won a Super Bowl, he's here until he says that he can't throw no more.
Unless you're Joe Flacco.
Well.
Or
but,
Colin
I mean,
Kaepernick.
come
no,
on.
Colin Kaepernick.
I mean, what? Green Bay was ever going to tell Rodgers to throw? Rodgers is the one saying, I want out.
Yeah. Now, there's a name that could go to Pittsburgh. He can opt out. He can opt out after this year.
I mean, he can go wherever he wants. Yeah, I mean, does he want to go to that division? I mean, here, our guy Carl's just lighting up the chat here, so I'm gonna bring.
Hell yeah, Carl!
I mean, he makes the point here, right? The Steelers have plenty of issues, and their division is getting better. I mean, you still have the Ravens. The Bengals are good.
Don't say the Browns are good because they're trash.
Well, they need a quarterback in itself.
Okay,
I don't see why Aaron Rodgers wouldn't go there. I mean, I know this isn't the real topic, but you bring in a guy like Rodgers with a running back like Harris, where you can, help each other out, especially with a play action and having the threat of Rodgers there.
Yeah,
No matter what receivers he has, he has, he can dime it all around the field. And they got a really good stud tight end that's his rookie or first year here. Pathamy or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
But,
so you're not
they need to go ahead, Josh.
No, so he's not in a situation that's any different than what he's in now. You go from the NFC North, where you have teams that are getting better, like the Bears are shockingly getting better. They just have to get rid of Matt Nagy, and I think that they could actually be something. The Lions are always going to be the Lions, so you never have to worry about them. But the Vikings have a good offense. They have a solid defense still. That's on the come up. As soon as they get rid of Zimmer in the front office, they're going to be great.
No, they have to get rid of the coach. They're not getting rid of him.
Extension.
I will kill you both. You said Rodgers to Pittsburgh, and he's got a good running back, Najee Harris. He's got mid-level receivers, just like he has. Well, I mean, he's got Devontae Adams right now, but you mean to tell me Devontae Adams wouldn't also come to Pittsburgh? Well, he wants to go to Vegas, and I could see Rodgers going to Vegas too. But like, if he goes there and gets Devontae Adams to come with him, Steelers still have a good defense. They still have T.J. Watt. They still have Fitzpatrick. I mean, they have the pieces there to be good on defense. You bring in a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who's still old, so you only get him for a couple of years, but he could revitalize them to make an actual like Super Bowl push. Like, I could see that. I could see it happening a lot easier in Pittsburgh than I could see it in Vegas.
And then you're going to a head coach with Mike Tomlin, who is, never had a losing season. We'll see how this season ends. Knows how to win football games regardless of what quarterback you have back there. And if you have a guy that doesn't have a big history of injuries, unlike Big Ben, who's always playing banged up, who always has something wrong with him. Rodgers had a few years where he was out with like a collarbone or a knee, but he takes care of his body a lot better than Big Ben does. Why not go play for a guy like Tomlin, who, he played for McCarthy, who I don't think they ever really got along and never felt like they did. They just kind of worked together. And then, that also leaves LaFleur to like build up his legacy now with the quarterback that, he wants. I mean, trust me, he probably wants Rodgers, but, the offseason didn't feel like he really wanted him.
I mean, Jordan Love is doing so well, so why not?
I'm not.
I think that's a front office problem right there. I don't even know if LaFleur wanted him.
I'm not. Until Rodgers finally goes somewhere, I'm not going to dismiss San Francisco as a spot. I mean, I'm looking at it like this. They want to move off Jimmy G still, and they've tried Lance out this year in spots, and Lance has shown that he's not ready. So if you're the Niners, who feels like every time since you've been to that Super Bowl, every year you have an issue, whether it's health or whether it's the quarterback or whatever, you feel like you're still a step away from reopening that window. Then why not let Lance sit for a couple of years behind Rodgers and reopen that window in a division that if you run Lance out, you're going to finish at the bottom every year.
Can San Francisco afford Rodgers' contract, though?
They could make it work.
Just get rid of Bosa. He's garbage.
All the Bosas
don't like the
get
Bosa
hurt.
brothers.
That's in the genes.
I don't like them. Let's bring back Brett Favre. He can play in his Wranglers.
The guy who's being sued for tax evasion right now?
Everyone gets sued for tax evasion at one point in their life, okay?
Know that from experience?
Why do you think I keep a receipt?
I was like, Favre just forgot to declare those commercials for whatever the hell that thing is. The thing.
Wait, I was supposed to pay. I was supposed to pay y'all back for these Wranglers? Oh, hell no.
Should have went with a stock option instead of a paycheck.
So we've got.
I tried to get him to pay him in Coors Light, but they wouldn't.
We've got a matchup of the top two picks from last year, the Bengals and Chargers, Burrow versus Herbert. Herbert obviously won the Rookie of the Year last year. Burrow obviously got hurt. I would argue that at the moment, Burrow is probably having the better season than Herbert. Obviously I was big on Herbert and the Chargers before the season, but the Chargers, despite the coaching change, are still the Chargers and still find ways to trip over themselves. Whereas here are the Bengals who, when Lamar goes out there and throws 4 picks and looks like the Lamar that we always think he is, the Bengals and not the Browns are the team that are trying to get there and get over the hump. And at this point, I would venture to say that I've got more faith in the Bengals than I do the Chargers.
First of all, I just want to say that Justin Herbert's Rookie of the Year award was a fluke. That should have never happened. The real Rookie of the Year was Justin Jefferson. The only reason Herbert got it is because he's a quarterback.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And had Burrow not been hurt, Burrow would have stolen it from Jefferson. So, like, Justin Herbert was never really – he was the best of the quarterbacks that was playing last year. What it ultimately comes down to with those two teams is Cincinnati has shockingly looked solid. They have good play calling. Their offensive line is playing better against the Chargers team that came out strong, but now just look as inept as they were when they played in San Diego. So I don't know if it's just it's obviously not a coaching issue as much as you like to bag on Anthony Smith. It's something more than that.
Well, I mean, from the San Diego perspective, it's obviously something more. It's a psyche at this point. But I mean, the biggest difference between the two teams is that Cincinnati can get their defense to play competently, whereas San Diego's defense is a sieve.
Good hockey term.
They haven't had a good defense since Merriman and Quentin Jammer were there.
Yeah, but they've got Derwin James.
I was going to say, you look at that defense on paper, it should be good.
But obviously on paper they look good, but they're just not playing well. Is that on the coaching staff? Is that on the D coordinator?
No, I think it's
they're getting lazy when they're kind of up by a little bit.
I would say bad juju. I don't know.
Probably because the Chargers suck. Nobody even likes them in LA. It's still a Raider home game anytime they're there.
The Rams have a good fan base, though. So,
well, they were there back in the 70s.
Yes, I know.
So they still have people there that watched them when they were there playing at the Coliseum, but the Chargers had no business going to LA. They should have went to San Antonio, should have went to St. Cloud, something like that,
They're not – no, God, don't bring them to St. Cloud. I don't need another shitty team here.
They could have put them in Duluth, right on the bay, right on Superior. Right there.
Too cold. They wouldn't survive.
Exactly.
Make them play outdoors.
Get him out of here. I don't like them. They suck. I do like Herbert, though. I don't, is he having somewhat? I don't think he's having a bad year. It's just his team.
No, it's not a bad year.
He just doesn't have the team. And then them losing their running back before the season started, too. Right? Yeah.
Austin Eckler.
Eckler's back. They've had Eckler. Like I said, it's the defense. What am I thinking?
I'm thinking I get them mixed because they play in the same stadium now, the Rams. Cam Akers.
Cam Akers.
Yeah,
they did lose Austin Eckler for a good chunk last year.
Yeah, I was like, he missed a few games. But I mean, that offense.
Hunter Henry, but it's not like they were using him anyways in that offense.
No, Hunter Henry was always hurt anyway. Hunter Henry went to New England and finally decided to get healthy.
Yeah, it's his first year with the new whole coaching staff though too, so that could be a reason why. I think it's the team. Herbert's going to be fine. I like the kid when he was at Oregon. I thought he should have been the first quarterback taken, but Joe Burrow goes off and wins the national championship with LSU. You're going to want to take Macaulay Culkin with the first overall pick.
Yeah. Speaking of Mac Jones, him and the Patriots have an AFC East battle on Monday night with the Bills for the top of the food chain. As of right now, the Patriots have a half-game lead over the Bills. We've been talking for weeks about the Patriots coming up here while the Bills were stumbling, and now here they are. They have both games left. This is the first of the two. My question is, who is this a bigger game for, Bills or Patriots? Chico.
Bills. Oh, the Bills. They were running the table all year and last year, I think, in the AFC East. This was their year to prove that they can be the number one team in the AFC East. They lost some games they shouldn't have lost. Haven't played well down the stretch here. And knowing, maybe something – if they lose, I think it's not because the Pats are better. I think it's more that it's that We've been getting beat up by the Patriots the last 20 years, and they're right back, fight for the number one spot. It's going to be a psyche thing to them, even though some of these guys weren't probably even born yet, or were kids when the Bills were happening. But it's just one of those things you probably hear when you join. It's like, oh yeah, we haven't beat the Patriots in the X amount of years. They're our daddies basically, but this is the year we do it. So this game's big for the Bills. If they can beat them, get over that hump, I think they'll have a smooth sailing all the way to the playoffs.
Josh?
I'm going to disagree, and I'm going to say that this is a bigger game for the Pats. Now, I said last week we would really know where the Pats were at and if they were a legitimate team, if they could beat the Titans, which they did. Wasn't like a blowout or anything like that, but it was still a convincing win. They didn't really struggle. And granted, it's a Derrick Henry-less Titans team, but now you're talking about the Bills, who were the team that was supposed to be the Super Bowl contender from the very start of the season, played very well at the beginning, and has now fallen off. So as far as Belichick and the Patriots are concerned, they have to win this game. They have to win both games in this series because they want to cement themselves as we never left. We just had a bad year. We just had a rough year or two, but we're back. So it's really just for Bill Belichick, I think it's important for him to be I had 1 year without Tom where I didn't get a quarterback that I wanted. I got my quarterback now, and I'm right back to where I used to be. I'm back to being in Super Bowl contention. So I think beating the Bills means more to the Patriots. I would say there's more pressure on the Bills, but I think it means more to the Patriots and Bill Belichick specifically.
I would lean it's bigger for the Patriots. From a Bills perspective, if they win, I don't know what message. I think that people still expect the Bills to win this game. I think that it's almost like Bills have kind of gone through that rough slog, where they've lost some games, and now that now they're picking themselves back up here for the stretch run. Whereas for the Patriots, this is a game where they can make a statement. This is a game where if you are still on the fence about where the Patriots are and how legit they are, this is them sending the message that, hey, we're back. Hey, whether or not we win this division, not the case. We're legit, and we're right in the conversation with the rest of the AFC. Because when you look around, there's nobody clear cut in the AFC head above everybody else. It's not the Bills. It's not the Titans, especially with we have no idea when Henry will come back and what he will be when he comes back. The Chiefs have certainly shown their warts. I don't think anybody's calling the Ravens, head and shoulders clear cut. So there's no one team you're putting your arms around and saying they're running through the AFC. So the Patriots have just as much of an opportunity here as everybody else, and this is their statement to kind of say that to everyone by getting in and beating the Bills. So I would say it's slightly bigger for the Patriots. And on that, the last thing I wanted to discuss is just how, for the stretch run here, the AFC is the only thing to be paying attention to. The NFC is worthless. Look at the NFC. The Cowboys win last night, thanks partly to Taysom Hill and his 4 interceptions. Not so much that the Cowboys did anything, but they're 8-4 now. Washington is lingering, but the Cowboys would have to just completely implode for Washington to catch up. All right, that division's garbage. The Eagles showed that they're garbage because they lost to the Giants last week when we contemplated if they were legit or not, and they immediately showed no, we're not. So the Cowboys can sleepwalk and win the division. Josh, as you know, your Vikings aren't going to catch the Packers. All right, so that's done. The Buccaneers are sleepwalking. When you're in a division with the Falcons, Panthers, and Saints, you don't have to worry about anybody. So they're cruise walking. And then in the West, the Cardinals are about to get Kyler Murray back. They've held serve here with Colt McCoy, and the Rams are still trying to figure themselves out. So, the Rams will probably get in as a wild card unless the Cardinals stumble. But when you look at this, really the only conversation you have is who is the second wild card. That's it. the divisions are kind of sewn up. You assume the Rams are going to be one wild card, and then you're looking at,
The Vikings.
teams like the Washington, the Vikings.
Please be the Vikings.
As of this moment, it would be the Niners.
Good.
Oh, yeah, forget about the Niners.
And let me put it this way. Looking at it, if the season were to end today, the Vikings would play the Niners, would play the Bucks, and the Rams would get the Cowboys. Like,
I can see the Rams beating the Cowboys too.
I could too.
I would like the Rams in that game, but the Niners will get killed.
Absolutely, yeah.
By the Bucks?
So, and then,
Jimmy G with Tom Brady.
I don't know if they killed.
I'd say they get killed.
they're not going to move the ball.
I don't know the way. What? Get out of here! You guys are nuts.
Who do they have again?
You guys even watch? You guys even watch football?
I mean, clearly we don't watch college football, but we watch
Yes.
On the flip side, you look at the AFC, right? So we've got the Patriots and the Bills battling for the AFC East. In the North, you've got the Ravens and Bengals a game apart. In the South, the Titans still have a lead. The Colts, who squandered one last week, which would have made this interesting, are still on the periphery. They're 2 games back. And then in the West, I mean, while we don't really buy anybody else, everybody's still in it. Everybody else is just a game back of the Chiefs. So
what do you mean you don't buy
there's still everything is still up in the air in the AFC, where the only thing we have to question in the NFC is who's going to be that second wild card. That's it. So, like I said, I won't be paying too much to the NFC down the stretch here. All right. Let's finish up the show here by talking about a lot of baseball, because God knows we won't be talking much baseball here in the future.
Why is that, man?
Nobody's surprised, Josh. Rob Manfred has put the locks on all the stadiums and told the players to get the hell out. There will be no baseball here in the near future. In grand fashion, MLB has gone so far as to take all of the players' faces off of the website, which in response, the players are now taking their faces off Twitter, being a blank slate. I think one of the pitchers to the Braves actually has put in his bio on Twitter a former pitcher of the Atlanta Braves while being locked down. A whole lot of back and forth. So, again, this isn't a surprise to anybody. We've been talking for weeks here how this was coming. It was going to happen. The flurry of movement that has happened here in the last week is purely because of the lockout. So before I dive into what we can expect from the lockout, what the situation is and when this might be over, just general feelings from the two of you. Chico, I know you will greatly miss your Diamondback baseball, so I'll let you go first.
I mean, I don't remember the last lockout. I think I was 4. So it's kind of cool. I can talk about a lockout that happened again. Again, I was so young the last time one happened. How long did that go for?
Well, the big issue with that one was, whereas this is happening in the off season, that one happened in the middle of the season. That one canceled out the World Series. Mm-hmm. So, and that was the biggest issue with fans and why a lot of people didn't come back. I mean, I think fans can handle
off-season lockout. See, that's kind of what I was going to figure out. I wanted to find out, because I know for me, regardless of the lockout, I'm still going to watch baseball when it comes back, regardless if they did a lockout during the season or not. It's how many more fans are they trying to lose by locking out? Baseball's already dying as it is. They're trying to get more and more fans to watch this, but it is a boring game if you're not into it and you're watching on TV, there's not much excitement until October comes and you have the playoffs. So this lockout's not going to help out with anything like that. I just hope they get it figured out and done quickly so that way we can get back to business as usual. But starting to really understand your hatred for Manfred, and it's legitimate because that guy sucks. Him and Goodell, both trash human beings. If I go missing, guys, you know who to search for.
You can toss Gary Bettman in there too.
Who the heck is that? The NHL fucking one?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck it. Is that the one that looks like when Crosby won his first Stanley Cup, he looked like a proud dad handing it over to him. Like, my son, he finally won. But yeah, because you had to keep suspending people for checking them into the wall. But that's another sport for another day.
All valid points from you, Chico. I'm impressed. The thing that I find the most interesting about the lockout is the fact that, like, Manfred in the coming weeks ahead of it said, "Oh, the lockout's going to be great." Like, I support a lockout fully because I think it's in the end it's what's best for the game. And then that letter comes out, and he's like, the Players Association just didn't want to work with us. They didn't want to come to the table, and they caused this lockout. Blah blah blah. Like, motherfucker, do you know that we see what you say, right? Like, we remember all the things that you've said. So don't go from a couple weeks ago being like, "Oh, this is going to be a great thing. It's gonna lead to a much better deal overall," to being like, "Those greedy players are ruining this game and taking it away from all of you." Like, I'm tired of it. And I mean, I'm okay, honestly, with the lockout right now because I'm in a very, very bad place with my own team at the moment. So I'm okay with not having baseball around. I'm okay with them taking a little break. I'm not going to miss it. But at the end of the day, like, taking the players' pictures off the websites is such a petty move that, like, isn't going to win you any fans. Like, if you're trying to turn the fans on the players here, you're doing it wrong. Like, the fans are going to take the sides of the players 90% of the time in situations like this. The league can come out and say, "Oh, the players are being greedy," but the everyday fan is going to be like, "No, we've seen through this long enough, and you guys have not taken action on things that are important for too long for us to believe you when you say that it's a player issue. No, it's a league issue." And I hope that one of the things they negotiate is the removal of Rob Manfred and somebody else taking his place. That would be like the end goal, just like a most amazing outcome for me.
That would be nice. I don't think that's on the table.
It'll never happen.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Like you said, Manfred, saying that, well, the lockout and all that, it was always coming. You said it was coming. The idea that, this was never even a thought in your mind. Okay. Like, again, you made mention of it, and look at the negotiations coming up to this. You guys barely had any. I mean, on the day before the lockout, you guys had a 7-minute meeting and walked out. So are you really trying to work toward anything? No, you're not. Okay. I mean, there were less than a handful of proposals sent back and forth between the two sides before the lockout. So, nobody was budging. There was no real effort to make a deal. So and none of it was surprising. But, Manfred is trying to spin. He's saying the players can't come to us and talk about how the owners aren't spending money, because look at all the money that they just spent over the last week here, and look at all the money that they spent in this offseason. Again, the flurry of activity that has happened is due to the lockout. Teams are basically using that as a deadline, which is now formulating a thought process of, should we have a deadline for the offseason? Would that speed up more player movement? Whereas instead of having guys going all the way into spring training before signing, if you had a deadline, then, we would get, all the big guys signing and have, a clear picture of teams, sooner in the off season. That's another issue for another day. I'm neither here nor there on that premise. Here's the funniest thing. What have we talked about so much when it comes to what the baseball side of things want. Pace of play, pitch clocks, shifts, all of those things. You know what Manfred slid in when talking to the media about that? None of that is on the table. They're not even discussing it. So the idea that you're going to get any of that come this new CBA and come this season, not going to happen. Not going to be there because they're not even talking about it. Their issues are so big that stuff like that isn't even on the table. Okay? It is stuff like this. It is stuff how the players are showing that since 2015, the average minimum salary of players have gone down every year. Number one. Okay? You have the owners basically saying, we will let guys get to free agency. They started at 30 and a half years old and then went down to 29 and a half, to try and get around the, how long guys have to stay, in arbitration and all that stuff. And while the MLB is trying to make it look like, 29 and a half, look at that. That's great. That's still the prime of your career. Look at a guy like Corey Seager this year who just signed a $300 million deal at age 26. Or look at how when Vlad Guerrero is going to hit free agency, or when Fernando Tatis would have hit free agency if he didn't sign a mega deal, or guys like that. 29 and a half is nothing. Okay? If you want to wipe away arbitration and come up with an age number, or say, basically it's either the age or after. Right now it's 6 years of service time. Okay, and the players are really trying to work around service time manipulation, as we saw with Chris Bryant back in the day with the Cubs, and other guys have it. I mean, the service time thing is a joke. That's why top prospects never make opening day rosters, because teams are always worried about the service clock starting. So it's either you make it where a guy has to stay with X amount of years, or hits an age and then they hit free agency. That's it. That's the coming to terms. Okay. Teams are trying, or players want a salary floor, because they're going, you look at and something Josh, you and I have talked about, you looked at the revenue sharing that goes around, and these teams are taking the money and not reinvesting it. That's their way of making money. You've got teams, like the lower end teams, like the Pirates and all this stuff, that don't reinvest the money. And if you had a salary floor, you look at a team like the Pirates with Brian Reynolds, or the now Guardians with a guy like Jose Ramirez or Shane Bieber, who these teams would be looking to shed these contracts because guys are making too much money for a low payroll. Where if you had a salary floor, now all of a sudden you'd have to keep these guys just to hit the mark. So players are pushing for that. But I mean, these are the fundamental. It's all money. All the issues are money. Arbitration, service time, what the luxury tax and what those penalties are going to be. All of that. These are the issues here. It's got nothing to do with anything on the field. So Manfred can stop with that. All the stuff that Manfred has shoved down our throats for a year about, wanting to change things on the field, wanting to make it a better product, and blah, 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 blah. None of that's happening at the table. None of it. So the product will be exactly the same whenever we come back. Now, here is the biggest issue. We have discussed about when we thought this would all end. And I have been a proponent of, listen, I know the lockout's going to happen, and we don't want to miss games, so we'll ballyhoo here for a few months, and then come late February, early March, there'll be a deal because we want to get spring training rolling and get to opening day. I still believe that. However, people who know a lot more than I do are saying, call us on Father's Day. That's a problem. If this season starts in June, we have a major problem.
I mean, I don't have a major problem. You
don't
have
want the season to start at all.
Yeah, I would be okay if the lockout lasted 7 years. I'd be real cool. Because I may have lost $100 million, but I mean, I would be 7 years happier, so it'd be fine.
It's 7 years of playing time, it's not 7 years.
I was like, we'll get to your 7 years here momentarily. But see, Josh has one of those teams that players are like, can we get a salary floor?
Yeah,
because the Twins don't like the Twins are iffy about spending money.
Oh no, they're willing to
Unless
spend
you-
money for the wrong player. But I mean, when it comes to trying to get somebody like Robbie Ray, God forbid you have enough money all of a sudden. Anyways, continue
Ray
with your
was
thought
not
before I
that
get to
much.
them.
I mean, again, the fact of the matter is that
So is Matt
you know,
Scherzer. So
for the next month, we're gonna get no movement whatsoever with the lockout. None. They won't even get to the. I mean, they have no scheduled talks, no scheduled sit downs for the table. And as far as real movement, again, the onus is when it starts getting up to the calendar as far as spring training in games. And the question here from our guy Carl, who does it affect more if the season starts late, the owners or the players? That's why the lockout is what it is, because the owners are going to sit there and go, let's see how dug in the players are, because the longer this goes, the more money they lose out on. So are they willing to forfeit money, or are they going to concede? Because the owners have, at the end of the day, as much change as the players want and blah, 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 and all that, the owners have the leverage, because the owners aren't the ones losing money hand over fist in this situation. That's the players. The players don't get paid unless they play. The owners have 800 side businesses that they're getting money from. Okay, my guy Steve Cohen isn't losing sleep over the Mets finances.
no, come on.
So it's how dug in are the players. Okay, Max Scherzer, who is one of the key players sitting at the tables during these sittings, said he will not sign his name to a deal that doesn't greatly change things for the players. So that's all well and good to say at the start of December. Let's see how you feel at the start of April, and that's always the case when it comes to a lockout. But
This is why you don't have the top tier guys at that negotiating table either. Because Max Scherzer, what was his new deal? Like, how much are you guys paying him? $130 million for 3 years or something like that?
Yes.
Okay, so do you think at the end of the day, Max Scherzer coming out and saying I'm not going to sign it unless it greatly, takes care of everybody? He can sit there with his millions of dollars that he already has and be like, I'm going to be comfortable. I don't have to sign anything. I'm going to be just fine. But as we've talked about, the average pay for Major League Baseball players is significantly lower, and it continues to get lower as the years go. So why don't you have some of those guys sitting in on these meetings? Because they're the ones that are like, dude, I can't afford anything that I have now because we're so locked out.
Because Scherzer is looking at it from a grand scope, is looking at it as far as younger guys and whatnot. I mean, the union is pushing for that the youth contingent, minor leaguers and all that stuff, trying to affect them. And more importantly, if you had a bunch of young guys sitting at that table who are basically sitting there going, I can't afford this, who do you think is going to cave first?
Yeah, the players obviously get cave first. But what Scherzer needs to do is he needs to open up his wallet and start getting all the other guys to open their wallets to keep those guys, keep them from causing any problems or keep them from putting pressure on Scherzer and the other guys that are at the table.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, what is supposed to happen is whenever a lockout is on the periphery, the union has players pay into a chest so that they have basically a contingency that in a lockout, they can disperse the money collected to the players in an effort to keep them afloat during the lockout in a way to kind of keep their feet dug in and not cave. The problem is while that's great in theory, it almost never works. Almost never works. So, it remains to be seen how well that is. But again, nothing will get solved here in the interim. All right. Moving away from the lockout, like I said, there were actual baseball things that happened here in the last week before the lockout. Let's dive into it first. Let's get to Josh's misery first, because I like to hear Josh's misery. Byron Buxton. who for the last 6 months has been talked about as a possible trade candidate, isn't going anywhere. Byron Buxton has agreed to an extension with the Minnesota Twins for 7 years and
Yeah.
$100 million. $100 million. Quickly here, let me just run you through the injury history of Byron Buxton. June of 2015, a left thumb sprain. July 2017, a left groin strain. May of 2018, a left toe fracture. June 2019, right wrist contusion. July 2019, concussion. August 2019, left shoulder. September 2019, left shoulder. August 2020, left shoulder. May 2021, right hip. And June 2021, left hand fracture. So, Byron Buxton and the field don't like each other. They don't see each other very often. Josh, you and I talked about the grand numbers of Byron Buxton, about how he's never hit 30 home runs in a season, never stole 40 bases, all of that stuff. I know you just love this contract immensely. So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I love it so much. What I love even more is the fan reaction to the signing. So, living in
Josh,
Minnesota,
you're getting apologies already from the chat.
Thank you, Carl. Appreciate it. This is the absolute worst thing I've seen since the Mauer contract. Now, the difference between the Mauer contract and the Buxton contract is Mauer won 2 batting titles as a catcher. Mauer actually produced for the team for many, many years, and he had earned that money. So I wasn't necessarily upset when he got that big deal. I thought it was too long, and I thought it was a bit too much money because we knew that he was going to be downhill at the end there. Byron Buxton's only played 1 season where he's had more than 92 games played, and he played 147 games that year. His lifetime batting average is 248. Okay, he has 70 home runs. He has 204 RBIs career in 7 years. So he averages 10 home runs a year at a 240 batting average. Now, 2019 is the last year stat that I could find as far as what the batting average was, like pre-COVID. Since COVID, things have changed a little bit, so I'm not used to those numbers. The batting average in 2019 for the MLB was 247. So he's just 0.001% above the average for a ball player. The average salary for a ball player, well, we discussed, is lower than it has been for any number of years. What we're seeing there is $4.8 million a year. So Byron Buxton is playing like a $4.8 million player, and he just got $15 million a year essentially. So this is a terrible deal. This is exactly the deal that the Twins would make. And when I confront Twins fans about it and ask them why this is such a big deal, like, you tell me why this guy is good for our team. They say, well, it's great for morale. I don't know how a guy that play. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was like, Josh, we're gonna let you fix your mic there. You're kind of hard to hear. Chico, like Josh fixes himself. Let's get a non-twin hated reaction to the Buxton signing.
I mean, he's still young, isn't he? It's a 7-year contract with him. Yeah, he's had a lot of injuries.
He's 29 years
ideally.
old.
Oh, he's 29? Shit. The hell are they doing? I mean, with all the injuries that you just listed off as a GM, I'm like, get this guy out of here. We don't need him. Just bring back Mauer if I want a guy that's going to be hurt every other day.
I am not advocating for the 7-100. Here is the rebuttal.
I'm just happy the Diamondbacks didn't sign him.
No, you're too busy getting ready to trade Ketel Marte.
Can't tell. I hope not.
Yeah. Anyway, so here's the rebuttal I'll give you, Josh. Again, I'm not advocating for the deal, but I'll just to play devil's advocate here.
Sounds like you really like it.
If you traded Buxton Okay, you had to try and get close to what the hype is, what the hope is behind Buxton. Because if you took the last 162 games that Buxton actually has been on the field, that he's actually played, and put them together to be a full season of numbers, he looks like an all-star. He's got a high batting average. He's got good power. He's got a lot of steals, whatnot. The problem is that to take that 162 games, you're basically taking like 3-4 seasons to make that a full season. That's the problem. But if you're the Twins, you can't trade him for pennies on the dollar. You can't get nothing back for him. You got to get close to what that looks like, which from all accounts, they weren't getting on the market. So from the Twins, when you're looking at the 7 for 100, which is still cheaper than what he would have got on the open market likely, it's, do we take the quote unquote low money risk at hoping that he finds it, or worst case, we get what we've had, or do we just sell off for pennies on the dollar? I think the Twins weighed it and looked at it as they got to a deal that they thought was reasonable enough compared to what was on the open market, that they're willing to bet on Buxton figuring it out. I don't think he will. I don't think he's shown that he ever will. But when you're a low market team, sometimes you have to take risk. And I think for them, they'd rather take risk on the homegrown talent than on an outside talent.
So here's my rebuttal to that. Do you remember what we got in the Berrios trade?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think that Buxton's worth that?
As for the hype of Buxton, yes, but on the field, no.
Because Berrios has more hype and is a better player overall. Granted, 2 different positions, 2 different skill sets. Berrios was a bigger piece to the Twins team than Buxton has ever been, and we didn't get much for Berrios.
Let me put it this way: the Berrios return, while beforehand you thought it would be greater, isn't horrible.
Right, but if I trade Buxton on the open, like if I just trade him and see what I can get, I'm not going to get what I got for Berrios. I'm not even going to come close to it. And if I just let
that's what the Twins were looking for.
Right. So, but you're not getting anything in return from this guy anyway. He's not. He has 42 games this past year, and he hits 306. He has a month where he is the player of the month, and he has better output than Mike Trout in that month. And imagine if he could do that for a whole season. He has to play a whole fucking season to do it. And the last time he did, he didn't even come close to those numbers. So please tell me again how this guy, you expect to get any worth for him on the open market. And why, if that's your hope, is to keep this guy around and get it for cheap. And if he performs better all of a sudden, you can get this extra bump or extra boost out of him, and you look like geniuses. You can't even trade him because you've got a no trade clause. Makes no sense to me.
You can get around no trade clauses.
Well, I could kill him.
I don't think you should say that on air.
No, I mean, we could just make it so that when he goes for one of his diving catches in center field, that the ball is just a little bit sturdier that day.
Okay, I get it. I guess.
What I'm saying is that at the end of the day, you have this guy who's been with you his entire career, just like Joe Mauer. He has flashes of greatness, but he's never once lived up to his potential. And you want to waste $100 million on a team that is notorious for not spending money. Takes a relatively cheap option to buy this guy, but it adversely affects their ability to go out and get players that could actually make a difference for this team. Now, granted, they have since signed a pitcher off of free agency that I couldn't care less about. But when the Twins are one of the 3 teams that are in talks for Bobby Ray, the Cy Young, and they can't even come close to the Mariners, don't get me wrong, I like the Mariners. But, like, if you're actually trying to go out there and compete, I feel like Robbie Ray is way more important for you to sign, and then you can talk to Buxton about a deal after, especially if you're going to talk one with no trade clause.
But you got Dylan Bundy.
Is he related to Ted Bundy? Ted Bundy is going to bomb this badly? Like,
You can only hope
well, that's that.
that he's just throwing gas. That's what you want. You're thinking of Ted Bundy.
To answer your question about Dylan Bundy and bombs, he gives up plenty.
Oh, yeah, he gives up bombs.
Yeah, he gives out plenty of bombs, yeah. It's going to be great.
You'll be happy.
All right.
I mean, best part about Robbie Ray is he started off as a Diamondback, so.
All right,
you sure did.
Let's move. Robbie Ray. We'll get to Robbie Ray. Don't worry. Let's move from Josh's misery to my happiness.
Oh,
because
we happiness.
Josh, what did I tell you?
You guys lost Javi Baez. How are you happy?
Josh, what did I tell you? Great White Buffalo, Josh. The Great White Buffalo. And what happened?
You're still not going to make the playoffs.
White Buffalo.
Congratulations. You got Max Scherzer, and we're going into a 7-year lockout. So you're never going to get to see him take it.
7-year lockout.
Okay. And before they got Scherzer, they signed Starling Marte. They signed Eduardo Escobar.
They lost Stroman.
Well. What?
You lost Stroman, though.
I'm not worried about Stroman. Not worried about Stroman. John Heyman, right now, obviously I'm going to have to wait months for this to happen, but John Heyman has said, okay, while Max Scherzer was the Great White Buffalo, there's been one person I have been banging the drum for the Mets to sign. I actually wanted them to trade for him when they traded for Baez last year. Now I'm advocating for them to sign. And John Heyman has reported that despite all the money that they have spent, they are still looking at potentially signing this man. And that is Chris Bryant.
Yep. And
by all means, get me Chris Bryant. For the love of God, get me Chris Bryant.
He's staying.
I'm going to love it so much when you get these guys, and then we're just in a lockout for years, and then you don't ever get to see the fruits of all this. I don't
get Chris Bryant until the lockout ends. So.
Yeah, by then he'll be 35 and worthless, so it'll be fine.
But. I mean, again, by signing Scherzer, Cohen has changed the narrative. And more importantly, Cohen has given the middle finger to Manfred and to his fellow owners. Last year, he played nice. He stayed well under the luxury tax. Okay, outside of the big Lindor deal, he didn't do much. This year, after having the bad year last year, he has opened the checkbook. He said, I don't give a shit how much it costs. Go get whatever we need and go get it done. I don't care how bad I blow past the luxury tax.
So let me ask you this: would you rather have Scherzer, which you have, or would you rather have Thor back?
Scherzer.
Yeah.
I have way more certainty in what I'm getting out of Scherzer than what I'm getting out of Thor. You would have a better argument asking me if I would rather have Scherzer or Stroman, not Thor. Thor's pitched 2 innings in 2 years. Thor's pitched 2 innings in 2 years. I don't know what I'm getting out of him. Okay? I'm getting a guy in Scherzer who finished in the top 3 of the Cy Young last year, and combined with DeGrom gives me a 1-2 punch that nobody can rival. Nobody.
What about Ohtani and Syndergaard? If Thor comes back and pitches the way that he was pitching before his injury started, him and Ohtani would be rough to get through.
That's still not DeGrom and Scherzer. DeGrom and Scherzer are top 5 pitchers in all of the league. Even Ohtani at his height, at his best pitching, isn't a top 10 pitcher in the league. Thor, even if I take his best year, wasn't a top 10 pitcher in the league. They're not close. I mean, you'd have a better shot of throwing me, Walker Buehler and Julio Urias, which I would still laugh at. But that's a better comp than Ohtani and Thor. You want to give me Berrios and Gausman out there in Toronto?
That's not bad.
I'm saying, there are better ones than Ohtani Thor. Come on.
Yeah, but Ohtani hits home runs.
That he does.
He hits dingers, and he keeps other people from hitting dingers. So that makes him better than Scherzer on the ground by itself.
Sometimes he does.
You simple person.
Sometimes he
I
does.
don't know if that makes him better.
He's a better.
Scherzer over Ohtani.
All right, so we'll run through the rest of these signings quickly, but first, before we do that, I don't want Chico to feel left out that we didn't mention his team. So, Chico, the Diamondbacks signed Mark Melancon.
Woo! What can I say? We make moves that either don't make sense or we make moves that still don't make sense. So, life as a Diamondback fan is pretty good. Got to see one World Series, so that's good. And other than that, we still stink.
It's okay.
Oh, we won 52 games last season. 52 games they won last year.
You won a third of your game. That's an improvement.
That's more games than Buxton will play in that 7-year contract.
Yeah, it will be.
All right, so let's run.
The Corey Seager got a big deal.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Let's run through these. So let's talk about the trade that happened yesterday, or not yesterday, a couple of days ago, real quickly. Chico, you and me talked about this before we came on air. The Red Sox and the Brewers make a deal where the Red Sox bring back Jackie Bradley Jr. and a couple of prospects and trade away Hunter Renfroe. Again, we're going to run through these quickly, so I'll just say this. I have no idea what the Red Sox are doing. The Red Sox were a playoffs team last year. Hunter Renfroe was very productive. And basically to buy a couple of prospects, they gave away a productive player for a guy who couldn't hit the Mendoza line last year. They obviously had a reason why they didn't bring Jackie Bradley Jr. back in free agency originally. I don't know why they make this move at all. But you're a team that, again, won the division. Was a wild card team last year. You were in the AL championship. Why are you making yourself worse? I don't get it. So that's that on me. You guys, Chico.
I didn't see what his contract was. Was there a lot of money he had? It could be trying to make a run for Korea. It's locked out right now, but I've heard.
Yeah, JBJ still has a good amount of money attached, whereas Renfroe is going to make about $7 million.
But yeah, I even thought, like we said earlier before we were on air, it's a weird trade. I didn't understand it. You already had JBJ the year before or 2 years ago. Why trade him for a guy that helped you get to the playoffs and was one of the key factors I thought on that team when they were making that run?
Josh?
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the Red Sox only care about purchasing the Pittsburgh Penguins. So anything that they do with baseball right now isn't probably thought through all the way. Why you bring Jackie Bradley Jr. back is along the same lines of why you signed Byron Buxton to me. Wasn't a guy that produced for you before, but you're going to bring him back in and get rid of something better. Like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So overall, I think the Red Sox maybe are hoping that they're going to get a specific use out of Jackie Bradley Jr. and are trying to save money in the long run by pushing Renfroe somewhere else. But I don't know. I'm not sold on it. I'm not a fan of the deal.
All right. Let me find. We had
besides him being a fan favorite. That's the only thing I could think of.
All right, so we had this in the chat earlier, so I'll put this up as we segue to this. So Marcus Stroman signed with the Cubs for 3 years and $70 million. Here's what I'll say about this. Stroman was quick to go to social media and say that the Mets were more interested in other guys than they were him. sorry, Marcus. Yes, I'm way more interested in Max Scherzer than I am you. However, I will say for the Cubs, 3 years, $70 million for Marcus Stroman. When you see what starting pitching was going for, is a really good deal for them. What I would say for Marcus Stroman is, for a guy who fancies himself as a competitor and a guy who wants to win and play and be in the playoffs and all that stuff, enjoy Chicago, because they're not winning the NL Central anytime soon. So have fun. Josh, anything?
Marcus Stroman dodged a bullet by leaving the Mets when he could, realizing that they don't value him and would rather have a guy like Max Scherzer is totally within reason for him to want to leave. Up until this week with them shining Scherzer, Dan had nothing but bad things to say about the Mets. So I can totally understand why he leaves. The Cubs isn't much better, though, right now, so he's not really going into a better situation, but he's definitely getting away from the drama that is Steve Cohen, that is the Mets organization. So I'll take it as a win for him, but not an improvement.
I told you, narration changes if they sign Scherzer. It's changed. Chico.
I mean, when you got fair weather fans like Dan over here with the Mets organization, of course. See, I'm true to my team. I don't care how bad they are. I'll never dog on them. I believe in them. But on his end, Stroman, I mean, obviously they don't want him. He sounds like he didn't really want to be there either. Go somewhere where you can get paid. I don't know how many years. Is it 3 years?
3 years.
3 years. I'm not sure how old he is. Go out there, hopefully light it up for those 3 years, get another bigger contract or a contract with
At the end of the deal, he'll be in his mid-30s.
All right. I mean, you can always still get a good deal somewhere if he's still pitching as a bullpen guy, try and go out there and win a ring or two.
That was good.
But I'm not mad at it.
I hope he enjoys his 3 years of non-playoff baseball. I'll say he can really live it up at Wrigley.
I hope Scherzer.
You think the Mets are making the playoffs? All you guys are good at is sitting in first place for half the season, then you let the Braves come on in and say, "Hey guys, we're gonna go win the World Series." Deuces.
We're gonna get. I got something for the Braves here shortly too.
You do.
Chico, you made reference to this. The Texas Rangers went big not once but twice. They signed both Marcus Semien and Corey Seager to big deals. My thing with the Rangers is, if you make these deals, you got to think that you're close to winning something. I don't view the Rangers as being close to winning anything. Their pitching is still iffy at best. Let me double check this really quickly. Last year, the Rangers were dead last in the division. They won 60 games. That's just above how many games your Diamondbacks won. So is Semien and Seager really drastically changing things? I don't think so. But Chico, do you disagree?
I don't think they're going to change things right away, but I think, with signing two guys like that to the organization, maybe they got some talent that can come up and learn from these guys. I mean, talking to Seager, who, played with the Dodgers for a while, came up through the Dodgers, went on those playoff runs, been to a World Series or two, won a ring. So you got some playoff experience there. I mean, he's young, but he plays like a veteran now. He can help these younger kids. With him going to the Rangers, I don't blame him. I feel it's more the Dodgers not wanting to pay him as much or give him as much money as he wants. And, you always have rumors when he was there playing at a really good level, bar his injuries, he suffered. They brought in Machado, and then they brought in Trey Turner. I mean, as a guy that was stuck out with the organization and played with them coming all the way up from his younger years, I feel like, to me, I'd be like, you guys don't value me as much. I'm going to take off. And why not go start off with the Rangers? I mean, if they're going to pay you that much, they already brought Semien in. See if you guys can build something there. Use your experience that you have going to the playoffs, being a part of a championship team, and try and build that organization up.
Josh?
No, I absolutely agree with what Chico said there. I don't really have too much to add on that one specifically. I'm not super familiar with it, but I agree. I agree with Chico.
I feel like the Rangers with the new stadium needed some big names to make it worth coming out to the ballpark, and this is the move. Doesn't necessarily help the end result, but gets people to come to the ballpark. Speaking of the Dodgers, the one move. What's that?
I said 100%.
Yeah.
Getting some bigger names that are known, will help get some fans in the seats.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you trade away Joey Gallo, you need a new face of the franchise, and you make a couple of big moves. The Dodgers, the one move they didn't make is they kept Chris Taylor in the fold. They signed him to 4-year, $60 million. Taylor has been a key component, moves around the diamond, can play multiple spots. I don't think that we need to dive too much into that. Chico, you made reference to this. Javi Baez leaves the Mets, goes to Detroit, gets a decent money deal there. I'm not a big Javi Baez guy. Doesn't kill me that he leaves. I wasn't a fan of the trade when the Mets made it. I thought they made it out of, worry instead of helping the actual team. So it just makes the trade look worse. But for Detroit, a team on the come up, I think Baez is a good fit with the young squad.
No, yeah, it is. Again, I thought the trade, like you said, to me, I didn't think it made sense. I thought he could have went somewhere else, and then I'm just more confused why you traded for him and then not even attempt to sign him.
Well, they did attempt to sign him. They did have a $125 million offer out to him. So,
but he kind of rubbed New York fans the wrong way towards the end of the month there with we're giving the thumbs down or something. He was, yeah. So for him not to want to go back there, or for him not to re-sign with them, maybe they offered it before that Detroit did, but I don't see a problem with going to the Tigers anyways.
Yeah, I think as far as the Baez thing is concerned, it wasn't a Stroman situation. It wasn't that they didn't want him. Remember the Mets, have only had a general manager for 2 weeks. So they were in contact with Baez early. Then when Epler stepped in, Epler kind of took his focus elsewhere, was focusing on getting the deals that he got done, while Baez was kind of on the back burner. And Baez getting offers from elsewhere eventually went elsewhere. So it is what it is. Josh, anything to add?
No, we kind of talked about it last week with the whole Baez going to Detroit thing. I think that was a good move for him overall. Again, he dodged a bullet not going to the Mets because we know that they're just going to piss away his talent, just like Scherzer's going to get pissed away now. I'm sorry. The only thing I have to be happy about. The only thing I have to be happy about is future Mets failures. Like, that's the only thing I can look forward to as far as baseball goes. So, Baez going to Detroit, I like him there. Detroit actually does, like, as much as I love talking shit on Detroit sports, Detroit does have a young team with plenty of talent kind of at every level. And they have veterans on the team that have carried them for a while. I mean, they still have Miggy, but they have like Jonathan Scope and guys like that too, who have been producing the past couple of years. So it's a good situation for him to be in as a veteran. He definitely doesn't have to worry about a fan base that's going to look at him and put a lot of pressure on him like the Mets did. So he's walking into a pretty comfortable situation, and he really only has, an upward trajectory there. Like if the Tigers do bad, Detroit's already like, how like life, every Detroit team sucks. But if he goes there and the Tigers start contending and like putting pressure on the White Sox or like the Royals, who are on the come up too, like that's a win-win for him, and he can kind of just coast and enjoy life. So good move overall.
All right, let's get to the one that upsets Josh. Cy Young winner Robbie Ray left Toronto to go to the Mariners. Mariners obviously needed a top of the rotation guy. There, I guess, for lack of a better term, top of the rotation guy last year. Kikuchi is in free agency. Somebody else that I'm sure will piss away their talent if the Mets sign him. He's the target of the Mets. But Robbie Ray looked at the Twins and their offer, said they're not very good. Looked at the Mariners and said at least they contend for the AL West occasionally, and went there. In retrospect, we talked about the Rangers and their moves and how they finished last year, the Mariners were second in that division, only finished 5 games behind the Astros. And if you remember, we're right in the thick of the wild card up until the last weekend. So, adding a Cy Young winner can certainly help that situation. Josh, we know your feelings on the situation. Chico, what do you got?
I mean, I'm glad to see him get paid. He was a former Diamondback, so that's always fun to watch. Guys that start your organization do well for other people. But I think the Mariners are a good choice. They were, one of the teams that I thought was going to make a run last year. They have good talent. If they're losing one of their top guys, why not go after the Cy Young winner? Just hopefully this Cy Young winner works out better than the previous one that got signed by a West Coast team. But, yeah, that's all I got. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it.
All right. And okay, go ahead. You can spill your bitterness.
Yeah, no, so I'm only bitter in the fact that the Twins didn't sign him. But the Twins not signing him, I was very happy to see that Seattle did sign him. That's like my home away from home team. Like I do support them, and I hope that they do well, considering they haven't made a playoff in over 20 years. I think Robbie Ray going there is something that team needs. They were very big on King Felix when King Felix was there, so hopefully Robbie Ray can produce at a similar level. And a team that is at least trying to contend, I think Robbie Ray is a good move for them. I kind of see this as on the upswing there. Seattle's been on the upswing ever since Mike Zunino left. So that's like the biggest piece there. Overall, I'm happy with the deal, though. I think it was a good deal. I think it's great for Seattle. I think that he's going to do well there. The AL West is still pretty competitive. With the A's being good and everything, he's going to get some quality talent to play against. So if he keeps up at that level, it's going to be a great thing for the Mariners. We may even see them in the playoffs again.
Lastly, Robbie Ray left the Jays. The Jays responded by replacing him with Kevin Gausman, who had a good year with the Giants. The Mets were also in on Gausman before signing Scherzer. He got a little bit of money with the Jays. Frankly, I will say that before, even had they hadn't gotten Scherzer, Gausman and Ray both signed before Scherzer did. So while the Mets were kind of on the periphery, they were never really outside of, I don't think they were ever really truly involved with Ray. They had the offer out to Gausman, didn't get him. I'm happy they didn't get Gausman. I'm not sure Kevin Gausman will work in Toronto. Gausman has history in the AL East. He started with the Orioles. Gausman has never had a breakout year before last year. That is attributed to the splitter and the success he had with that. But I'm not sure that I'm willing to put all my faith in a one-year breakout. Gausman going to a loaded AL East, in Toronto, which is not exactly a pitcher's park, where he's leaving San Francisco, which is a pitcher's park. I'm not sold on Gausman being the replacement for Ray. I think that might actually hurt Toronto in the long term. Josh, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I would agree. I don't think it's great for Gausman or great for Toronto, but out of all the teams that were looking at Gausman, I think this is Gausman's best chance at still having some success. Not necessarily that he's in a hitter's park for sure, but he has an offense that can at least back him up a little bit. So maybe he's going to feel a little bit more comfortable just on the day-to-day being out there pitching, knowing that the team can pick him up if they need to. And adding Berrios was really, I think, like keeping Berrios on and re-signing him was bigger when having lost Robbie Ray. I think that was bigger for them overall. So I don't think Gausman's expected to come in and take over, like fill the Robbie Ray role. I think that's why they re-signed Berrios. So Gausman coming in as like a 2 or 3 in the rotation, I don't see as really that bad for him. I mean, that could work out pretty well. That splitter was the only thing that gave him a good season last year in San Francisco. But let's see if he can have that continued success. I mean, I think Toronto's a good fit for him. So I'm optimistic, but I don't think we're going to see similar numbers to what we saw last year.
Chico, any thoughts?
No, not really. I mean, everything you guys said probably sums up what I was thinking myself.
All right, and lastly, this one is just kind of more interesting. Justin Verlander, a couple of weeks ago, signed a reported 2-year deal for $50 million with the Astros. That deal never got finalized. As of right now, we are in the lockout, so it can't be finalized, and Justin Verlander is still technically a free agent. Obviously, because we're in a lockout, the Astros can't comment on why that is, and Justin Verlander has refused to comment on why that is. So one of two things here. One, there is an issue with the physical for Verlander, and they are merely reworking things. Or two, there was some sort of issue as they tried to wrap this up. And Verlander, looking at the landscape as it is now, is rethinking. But nevertheless, the fact that we had deals that got done within 24 hours of a lockout, and Verlander has been signed for technically 2 weeks and it's not finalized, leads to a lot of intrigue here post-lockout and what happens with Justin Verlander.
Did they throw it in the trash can on the way out the door?
Yeah, there we go.
There it is.
All right. Before we get to wrapping this up with any last thoughts, let's get to that. I'm not going to forget the bets this week. So let's, I'm on the ball this week, despite being a little tired. So let's get to that. Chico,
What are we doing?
Due to your big Michigan call last week, we will let you go first.
First off, I just want to say Carl was right when he picked Bryce Harper to be the MVP earlier in the year. Just wanted to put that out there.
We've discussed that on the show. We don't need to
Carl
get into that right again.
I'm also correct when it comes to betting, so you might as well just listen to both of us because we're geniuses. Unlike people that are fair weather fans, mainly Mets fans. You know how it is. But for college, since it is championship week, I'm taking Michigan over Iowa. Rolling with them since they won last time. I'm going to keep up. They're getting 10.5. I think that's a little high, so I'm just going to take the money line on that.
I had them at 11.
I have 10.5.
Station has them at 10.5.
Okay.
Chico,
Then I have Wake Forest over Pitt. Pitt's been playing well. They got a really good quarterback over there. Guy I think will be projected, at least a first-round quarterback taken. But I feel like Wake Forest is just going to upset them. They're only +3. They're getting 3. Might as well take that. Of course, going to roll with Oregon. They lost to Utah earlier in the year, a loss that pretty much kept them out of the college football playoffs. So I think they're going to kind of want to redeem themselves and show the world that they should have been there. And it's a little too late, but this will be a shot for them to get back that loss they had earlier to Utah. They are not favored. They are +3, so definitely
if you want to, and just a note, if you want to jump on Chico's Oregon bet, you have about 5 minutes. That game starts.
Yeah, you got to get it in quick. So, and then going with my dogs, Kent State, baby. Favored over, I think it's over Northern Illinois. I could be wrong. It just said NO, Illinois. So I'm taking Kent State. They are favored 3.5. So roll with the Thundering Herd, I think. No, that's Marshall. The Golden Eagles. I don't know what they're called.
Just roll with them. We got it.
Yeah, parlay those and bet them individually. Do what you want. I'm here to give you free money.
Josh?
So as far as college goes, I think we have Chico and I have mostly the same bets. I'm also in on Wake Forest. I just like them in that matchup. I don't know. They've played strong all year, so I'm not really too concerned. Coming into this matchup, I think they're going to do pretty well. I have Michigan as well. I have the money line, not the spread. Just 10.5.
Both going to lay 50.
Yeah. It's
okay.
Yep. I think Iowa being Iowa pisses away big games and they piss away small games. So I think we all said early on that it doesn't matter who Michigan plays, they're winning this game. So yeah, definitely take the money line on that. And then I have Baylor at +6 against Oklahoma State. Yeah, they might, and that's a good point from Carl.
I am a little afraid of that myself, but I think they can,
All right. Is that all? Is that all your
comment from Carl? No, I'm taking what's the Georgia line right now is what +6.5 or -6.5?
Yeah.
Yeah, take that and run with it. I'm not confident in the way that Alabama's playing. Just like Carl's saying here too, like Georgia is going to win that game. I don't really see a way in which Alabama does, even with doing the tempo offense. Like it's just not enough to get past Georgia's defense this year. This Alabama team needs at least another season. Like next year, they might be performing at a way different level than they are right now. They're just not ready. They lost too many big pieces last year. So I'll take Georgia at -6.5. Yeah, and then Baylor over Oklahoma State. I got a little sidetracked there. I like Baylor to play an upset on Oklahoma. Baylor's pretty much been doing that all year, so I like them at a +6. So that's my 4 for college this week.
All right, I've got 3. You and me agree on Baylor. I'll take +6. You guys can lay your 450 money lines all you want. I'll take the 10.5 with Iowa, and I will lay the 4.5 with Cal. I think USC is deader than dead. I don't think they give a crap about playing this game, so I'll lay the 4.5.
I also I picked Notre Dame to lose this week, so
that's difficult because they don't play, but.
Exactly, because they're that bad. They're gonna
lose if they're not in the playoff. That's
they're not getting in the playoffs, so it's not in the discussion.
All right, NFL picks. Josh, go.
I have 3. They're all pretty easy. I like Detroit +7.5 against the Vikings. I don't expect them to win that game, but I expect it to be another field goal heartbreaker where Dan Quinn cries himself to sleep and probably cuts himself in the locker room. I don't know.
Dan Campbell.
Is that what I said? What did I say?
Quinn.
Oh, not Dan Quinn. Dan Carpenter. Dan Campbell. I was going to say Dan Carpenter then. Still wrong. Dan Campbell. That's how bad he is. I don't care enough to remember his name. But I expect it to be close. I expect Detroit to play with like a chip on their shoulder. And without Dalvin Cook, without Christian Darrisaw at left tackle, Vikings are kind of hurt and banged up right now. So I could see Detroit making another push and making it competitive. So I'd like them. I like them to stay within that margin. I have Philly against the Jets. I like that just as I think Philly's -7 in that game. I think that's an easy win for them. And then I have Washington football team is a +1 against the Raiders. I'll take that all day.
Okay. Chico?
Well, I'm taking the Vikings over the Lions. I got 4 here. I'm taking the Raiders over the Washington football team. Taking the Niners over the Seahawks. And I'm taking the Bears over the Cardinals. All money line.
Bears over the Cardinals, huh?
So Chico just basically said Josh's bets are garbage.
Yeah, basically.
All right. Well, then Chico said that both our bets are garbage because I'm on a couple of them with you. I'll lay the 7 with the Eagles. I will lay the 3 with the Bengals. I'll take the point with the football team. And on Sunday night, I'll take the 9.5 with the Broncos. And on Monday night, I'll take the 3 with the Patriots. So
who the Giants play?
The Dolphins with Mike
the
Glennon.
Dolphins.
I like
Glennon.
the Dolphins in that game too.
I like the Dolphins a lot in that game.
So yeah, you can lay the 6 now with the Dolphins. Before it was like I think it was a 1.5 point spread, and now with Jones out, it's gone up to 6.
Yeah, it's like a 14-point game, easy.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, that is it for this show. Well, next week I was going to dive into who's still left in the free agent bin for baseball. But we can do that next week. Nothing's happening with baseball, so
It's locked
We don't
out.
have
We
to
can't
talk baseball again. Yeah, they're locked out. We don't care about
We
baseball.
can't
right
talk
now.
about it.
Yeah.
MLB will sue us.
They don't even have their pictures up on the website. We can't talk about things that don't exist.
can't use their likenesses.
Yep.
Tune in about an hour on Twitch for our other show, Nerdiversity. I'll say we'll be talking some Hawkeye, and for the first time on the show, we'll be talking music. So tune
Get
in,
your
like I said, in about
Spotify wrapped up, boys.
so in about an hour there on Twitch, we'll discuss all of it. So until then, for the boys, we'll see you later.